how's everybody doing? Yeah, there you go. There it is. Not wearing a belt, although I probably should be. They're actually jeans. I don't have red slacks, but I'm like, hey, I got the red jeans. The vest I did get on Amazon for like 20 bucks. One interesting thing that I noticed off the bat is I'm like, his vest is like a suit jacket. It has the lapel and the pocket. Like that's, I wasn't sure I had ever even seen that before. I'll tell you about my first impressions of Apollo. He seems like over-eager young hotshots guy. I cannot remember one instance in which I've seen a lawyer in court not have a suit coat on. I like the design. It's just the vest struck me immediately because, and the sleeves rolled up. I will tell you, you will never see this in court. It is very disfavored. It feels really good. I wish we could do this in court, but it is very disfavored. So I paid for the game. I have it on my Google Play account, so there's nothing off about that. It's just that BlueStacks is able to emulate mobile games like that. I was looking at how long to beat for these games because I was wondering how long this is going to be, and this game's going to be around what Trials and Tribulations are, just maybe just a little shorter. Holy shit, those games are long. 35 hours compared to 20? What the hell happened to like bump it up 15 hours? And it might be a little loud. Oh shit. Good old-fashioned card game murder. I seem to be in a bit of trouble. Something like that. Dead? Someone hit him hard. Me? Please, the cops should be here any minute. I'm in your hands, should it come to that. I hope he's not talking about what's his fuck. Hey, that's familiar. I like that. We get the familiar guards who can kind of see their eyes now instead of them just being blank, almost blank faces. Well done. Panic. Palm sweaty. I can admit it, I'm nervous. I don't know who this is supposed to be. Ah, good morning. Oh. I suddenly regret giving Edgeworth the voice that I gave him. Because this guy should have Edgeworth's voice. The Togami Edgeworth love child. Nice. Good morning, sir. Who is he? Oh, so this is, he's not an evil dude. Good. Cause I'm tired of seeing dudes like this and just, oh, they're evil. You look tense, Justice. Wound up tight. Wound up, sir? No, I'm loose, I'm fine. That screeching noise. Is that your voice? I suppose it's to be expected. What's his name? Kristoff? Your first trial and it's a homicide. I guess justice doesn't start small, eh? Like my name, sir. I got it. But I'm fine. I got up at 5 a.m. to do my Chords of Steel voice workout. I'm fine. That explains it. I did detect a certain rasping quality to your speech. I overdid it again. Oh, Apollo. As you know, your client today is a good friend of mine. Why won't you do it? I wouldn't want to let him down, if you get my drift. Well, you're obviously an attorney. Why don't you take the case? Where I practice, the state of Wisconsin. In our jurisdiction, Judges will not generally allow someone without any experience, not even just a murder trial, but defend somebody in a higher felony case, criminal felony case. I understand the rationale behind it. There are always exceptions that can be made. That's always the case, but especially in the more populated areas, you will almost never, ever see that happen. So they'd expect you to go through those sort of low-level cases and then criminal misdemeanors, and maybe have a few misdemeanor trials under your belt before you're able to jump into doing higher-level felonies. Drift God, sir, I'm all over that drift. As it happens, I dined with him the night of the murder. You can't let this case fall through. Yes, I'm fine, sir. One more thing. Don't say you're fine quite so much. People might take you the wrong way. Gulp! I'll be preparing our case. You might want to introduce yourself to the clients. My name is Apollo Justice. If it isn't clear already, I'm a new attorney, and today is my first trial. Not that I'm worried or anything. The defendant has been accused of murder, most foul. My boss wants to help him out, of course, and so do I. I mean, there's no way he did it. Not him, no way. Where do we start here? Tell your clients, never come to court in a hoodie. Not only that, but I guarantee you he's gonna have that hat on in the courtroom, and that would never be allowed. Unless you had like some horrible disfigurement on the top of your head. What'll likely happen is that the attorney, you might get scolded for not like their client to dress a little nicer. Whoa! Wow, you look like a douchebag. Good morning, Mr. Douchebag. I mean, sir. Warden. It's all up to you today. First trial, nervous. Meeting him, cardiac arrest. I think I'm supposed to say something. Like, don't wear a hat or a hoodie here? What's with the chain? God, good lord, sir. Everything you're doing is incorrect. So you're? Fine, I'm fine. Oh, God, no, I mean, I'm Apollo Justice. Oh, Mr. Fine, is it? I did remember you having an odd name. Well, we're off to a great start. Are you sure you're okay? I mean, with me? Oh God. So Apollo is doing two things that would be a dead giveaway for anybody to rethink whoever is representing them. He's saying, way too much. The second thing, asking them if they're okay with you working for them. They need to think that you are lucky that I am the person that's representing you because you are in good hands, as opposed to, are you sure? Are you sure you want to pick me? Me of all people? Why would you do that? The lawyers riding motorcycles. Mr. Gavin is a top-notch defense attorney, and he's your friend. So why? You'll see. You can do it. Be confident. I'm really sorry this happened to you. I mean, it's time. Shall we? The client is leading me right now. Yes, sir. Okay, I need to focus. First trial, here comes justice. Yeah, I pun my own name all the time. Let's do this. Man, must have been nice to never start earlier than 10 a.m. Ah, a familiar face. Two familiar faces. The court is now in session. Whoa. Okay, two things. Why did he let the side of his hair grow out, considering the rest of it does not? And second, that suit? That's what fucking Will Powers wears as an actor at a gala. It's not what you wear in a courtroom. Well, to be fair, yellow bleeds anxiety, and once Mia took his manhood, that's what he's been ever since, right? A big bowl of anxiety. He's 61? You know what, I'm gonna be honest, I wouldn't have guessed he was that old. He actually looks younger than 61, not by like a ton, but I probably would have guessed like mid-50s. Maybe like 52, something like that, younger 50s. The prosecution is ready, Your Honor. The defense is fine, I mean ready, Your Honor. Already loving that expression. Mind going blank. Don't panic. Too late. Your name was Mr. Justice, and this is your first trial? Yes, Your Honor. But I'm fine, really. Are you quite sure? Your voice sounds a bit strained. Ahem. Mr. Gavin? Yes, Your Honor? I was under the impression that you would be heading up this case. That was my intention, yes. However, the defense attorney must always cede to his client's wishes. My client specifically requested Mr. Justice. Well, of course, he wants justice. But to entrust his case to this greenhorn, why? I do not exaggerate when I say that you're the best defense attorney in town, Mr. Gavin. Okay, so Gavin's got trial experience, fine. Does he have cords of steel? Then let's begin. The defendant may enter the courtroom. So I guess he was more musing than actually asking any questions. This is truly an unfortunate turn of events. I'm sorry we had to meet again under these circumstances. Long time no see, Mr. Wait! What? What? I mean, I see it now, but why? Why does he have that chain on? What is he doing with his life? Oh, Phoenix, no. Oh, Phoenix. Phoenix, no. Oh, why would you do this to me, Phoenix? I feel like I had such a respect for you, and then you wore that outfit to a courtroom. I am okay. Oh my goodness. Hobo attorneys versus attorneys on motorcycles. Whew, okay. Let's rewind. Long time no see, Mr. Rat. Okay, Mr. Sly Dog. Let's put the past behind us, shall we? These days, I'm merely Phoenix Wright, piano player. Mr. Wright, how could this have happened? I won't speak of it further then. If the prosecution would be so kind as to explain the charges, Mr. Payne? To think I saw you enter this room as a fresh attorney and now I'll see you leave in shades. Ah, Winston Payne, subtle as ever, I see. Ahem. The crime occurred at the Borscht Bowl Club. Borscht Bowl Club, a Russian restaurant. The defendant, Phoenix Wright, took the victim, a customer, and he hit him, wham, on the head. Smack, killed him cold. A customer at the restaurant, you say? And the defendant, you say he was the pianist for the club, it seems. Phoenix Wright, a pianist? Not even, like, paying attention to what's going on! Is he, like, high or something? Just like, oh, I think I know that person. This is the weapon that took the victim's life, a bottle of grape juice. Grape juice is apparently our defendant's drink of choice. The court accepts the deadly bottle as evidence. Something to note, Justice. All evidence is filed in the court record. Make a practice of checking it frequently. The court record, right, I've heard of it. I've heard of that. Use the court record button in the upper right-hand corner to look at the evidence so far. I'm confident in your ability to handle this. Right, the court record button. Sounds like it's time for some hands-on action. So the victim was a customer at the restaurant. But just who was this, Shady Smith fellow? Yeah, Shady Smith indeed. We believe he was a traveler, Your Honor. Urged to play Genshin Impact Rising. Traveler? According to his passport, he had been out of the country for a number of years. He had only returned to his country recently, though his place of residence is unclear. And he had some sort of connection with the defendant? That too is unclear at present, Your Honor. We believe they first met at the Borscht Bowl Club on the night of the crime. If they had only just met, then why murder? Perhaps the victim slighted the defendant's piano playing? That doesn't appear to have been the case. No, the motive had nothing to do with the defendant's lack of playing skill. At least not piano playing. I'll let this photo explain what I mean. Without his pro tag plot armor, Edgeworth probably beat him so bad that he quit being a lawyer. It's over, Phoenix. You don't have the game to protect you any longer.
As we can see, a game of poker was in progress at the scene of the crime.
Wait a sec. Isn't poker gambling? That's a crime in and of itself.
Indeed, it appears our defendant has fallen to become the basest sort of criminal.
Objection!
It is true that the defendant was engaged in a game of poker with the victim. But it was only that, a game, in the purest sense, a competition, Your Honor.
A competition?
Yes, a test of wits, a silent clash of passions. Only the cards, their backs wreathed in blue flame, know its final outcome. Okay. But then what's the point? If there's no gambling involved, or like at least playing chips and stuff like that, you just should throw your cards onto the table and say, all right, let's see what happens. There's no bluffing, because why would you bluff if you lose? Unless the loss results in murder, but that's a gamble. He's saying there were no actual stakes here, besides pride. Come again?
The cards on the table had blue backs, Your Honor. I believe the defense was waxing poetic in an attempt to mystify those present and impress women.
That will be our first order of business here then, to impress the women. I mean, to find out more about this fatal game of cards. Very well. Defendant, you will testify to the court about the poker competition held the night of the crime. My pleasure, my treasure. This is it. My first trial. Here goes nothing. Hashtag don't let Twain be aloof. Yeah, exactly. Why you become hobo? I am curious myself. Well, it looks like he slicked the hair back because it's like kind of coming out from like the back part of it. That, and if he's a hobo, he's not putting all that gel in his hair anymore, probably. I'm a pianist by trade, yet I can hardly play at all. My real job is to take on interested customers over at the poker table. The room where we play and the competition in there are the club's main attractions. The rules are simple. We play a game of poker using 2 decks of cards. That's all it is, a game, and our customers are happy. What incredibly vague testimony. You gave no details as to why this happens, or what this person was doing specifically there, or... Oh god. Pianists who can't play piano.
Better than a defense attorney who can't defend.
Very well, the defense may begin the cross-examination. Right, Your Honor. My first cross-examination. Don't blow it. Are you all right? You're sweating bullets. Bullets? Where? It's a figure of speech, Justice. Your voice sounds strained and raspy, too. My brain feels strained and raspy, sir. You've watched me perform cross-examinations many times, though you've never done one yourself, have you? Inconsistencies? Lies? Phoenix Wright? As if. Phoenix Wright would never lie, and it's up to me to prove it. The defense may begin the cross-examination. Kristoff does have a very nice, calming presence. You can hardly play? Oh, I play sometimes when the customers demand it. So I play them one song. That's usually all they want. Was that supposed to be a boast just now? The title of pianist is a mask, a respectable face I wear for the world at large. Then why are you really at the Borscht Bow Club? They pay you just to play poker? That would seem to be the case. I'm a professional after all.
Bah, do I detect pride in that statement? Just hard to be for an honest, hardworking member of society like me to imagine.
Yes, your imagination was always a bit limited, Winston.
What?
I've played poker for 7 years in that little room. 7 years? How long has he not been an attorney? Holy shit, I was not expecting that big of a time jump to occur. Where the fuck's Maya? It's been 3,000 years. Nearly as long as we've been waiting for this Let's Play. And I've never lost once. What? See why the customers come now. Defeat the undefeated poker champion. It's quite a draw. That is, I'm quite a draw. Wait, you've never lost once? Not even one time? Did I stutter? As I said, I'm a professional. He's played poker for 7 years and not lost once. Is that even possible? The room in the crime scene photo is an attraction? It has quite a history, actually. The Borscht Bowl Club used to be a gathering spot for black market types back in the day. Black market? All in the past, things like the black market are only on the silver screen nowadays. Suffice to say that there were a lot of deals being made under the table. Right there in that room, the smoky room, gambling hoods, you know. Just looking at this picture makes me feel bad. The bosses gather around the table, cutting deals safe from the eyes of the law. Meanwhile, a goon keeps watch through the small window. I can practically picture it now. That window does look like it would be good for keeping a lookout, but little else. The room had a few other tricks to it, though it was common knowledge to our regulars. At any rate, they came to play poker in a room steeped in history. Despite the dark past, it was all just good, clean fun. 2 decks of cards? A simple measure to prevent cheating. If you alternate 2 decks, no one can slip in cards. There's something else I noticed. In addition to the cards on the table, there are some lying scattered on the floor. Precisely, cards on the table, cards upon the floor, each one forming a complete deck. The crime scene painted blue by a sad sweep of cards. It's poetic, really. Incidentally, we use 2 types of cards at the club. One deck of cards is red, the other blue. As I recall, in poker you make 5-card hands. Well, in 5-card poker, yes, sure. 5-card draw. I can see how it would be easy to cheat. Yes, the game of hands. This competition you're talking about, I believe the court understands the nature of the game sufficiently. That's right! It was a simple game after all. Are you sure? Huh? People are not murdered over simple games, Mr. Justice. Defendant, you were in the room the very moment that the crime occurred, yet you claim no connection to the crime? Now that's strange. What's strange? I was testifying about the competition that night. Asking me about the crime at this point is against the rules, Your Honor. Of course, I expected to hear a cry of objection from the defense. Ah! I completely let that one slip by. Don't despair yet, Justice. Sir? Right, there's something I'd like to make clear, namely your connection to the case at hand, and I'd like to hear it from you. Sure, why not? Very well, the defendant will amend his testimony. Phoenix's new power is to hide his eyes when being sus. I know, he does that, right? He's got that sly smile and like, you can't see my eyes now. It's because of that damn hat. No, I expected the judge to be here. I've gone beyond expecting the justice system to get rid of such an incompetent buffoon. And I've got myself a whole new testimony. I plead silence regarding the murder, but I will say I never touched the murder weapon. Honestly, these are, like, this is gonna throw me off. The fact that Phoenix is the defendant is going to really throw me off. Silence? The defendant has the right to refuse to testify. I haven't forgotten everything about the law. But why? That clearly puts you at a disadvantage. It depends. You could be at a disadvantage and keeping silent gives you more advantage than you were before. Just depends on what the truth actually is, right? It's your job to turn that around in our favor, yes? Great. Like I didn't have enough to do already. Justice, didn't you detect anything odd about that testimony? Huh? Wait, something he said did ring a little strangely. Just one thing. Now what was it? When you figure it out, suggest presenting evidence. Evidence that contradicts the testimony. Contradiction in Mr. Wright's testimony? But why? I'd better check the court record. I can't imagine Mr. Wright lying in a testimony. Okay, let's take a look at the court record. Bottles on the table, empty. They have chips. Both their hands are on either side. Deck in the middle. Other deck on the ground. The murder weapon is alleged to be the bottle. There's his fingerprints. That's the connection. Objection! So you say you didn't touch the murder weapon? This grape juice bottle? Right? So I said. Good lord. Why is he so surly? He's so surly. He's just like, yeah, so I said. Something the matter, Mr. Justice? Oh, God. I could have done without that hair flip.
Too bad our new defense attorney never learned how to play dumb.
What's this, Mr. Payne?
I examined the bottle in question, you see. It was covered with the defendant's fingerprints.
Objection! Oh, I needed to say it a little louder. No need to shout, Mr. Justice. I can hear you just fine. Excessive yelling could damage the judge's ears in our case. What about my cords of steel? Anyway, what's so strange about fingerprints on a bottle in a restaurant? Well, that's true. The prints alone don't prove... I'm sorry. Excuse me, Mr. Payne. Did you interrupt me, the judge, during my line of thought? Am I going to have to sanction you, sir? And make you and fine you? And have you donate that money to a charity of my choice? That does happen.
Oh, they wouldn't prove a thing if they were normal fingerprints.
Huh? Are my cords of steel? My approach was more calm and smooth than having like the emphatic sort of presentation. How would a judge react if a lawyer screamed objection in court? Probably exactly how the judge just reacted here. Like, you don't need to yell, I can hear you just fine. You know, if I were to think about all the characters, Edgeworth probably has the most closest to like a normal objection.
But the fingerprints on the murder weapon were upside down.
Upside down? What does that mean?
It means he was holding the bottle inverted, and there could be only one reason for that. Yes, to brain someone with that bottle.
Ugh! I love that look. Mr. Gavin, I think things just took a turn for the worse. Oh? I see no problem, Justice. Huh? The only thing that matters is the truth. There's a good reason for everything, you'll see. Defendant, can you explain your fingerprints on this bottle to the court? I stand by my plea of silence regarding the murder. For now. Not very cooperative, are you? This could hurt your case.
I'm sure he's cooperative because he's hiding something. There must be some reason.
Objection!
Your Honor, you seem to have forgotten something. And what might that mean, Mr. Gavin? On the night of the crime, who was it who reported the murder to the police? Reported?
Well, that was the defendants, Mr. Wright. But still, that...
Really?
Yes. Well, according to the case file, the murder was reported from near the scene by a call from the defendant's cell phone.
Near the scene?
Let's take a look at a diagram of the murder scene, shall we? The victim was murdered in a small room in a basement 2 floors down from the ground level. Of course, cell phones can't get reception so far down. The defendant used the stairs of this hallway to go above ground. The call came from the first floor of the restaurant.
I see. And this is the phone that made the call? Mr. Wright's super fucking old Primeco Nokia. The defendant could have just fled the scene of the crime if he so chose, yet he fulfilled his duty as a citizen and reported it to the authorities. And you claim he is being uncooperative? Ugh. Nice save, Mr. Gavin. Better not waste this. I think the prosecution has toyed with our client enough for the time being.
Toyed? I assure you, no one is more serious about...
What was it you said? The defendant was in the room the very moment the crime occurred. How can you possibly know this? That's a good question. How indeed? The answer is simple, Your Honor. The prosecution has a decisive witness.
You're as good as they say you are.
So someone was in the room the night of the crime. That must mean they witnessed the crime. Everything up until now has been a warm-up, Justice. Are you ready? Very well. The prosecution may call its first witness to the stand.
The witness will state her name and profession.
Hold on just a moment. Where's the witness?
I surmise that she has been frightened by the defense's demonic-looking horns.
As opposed to your hair? So I use a little hair gel. Relax, people. Have no fear. If any horns point in your direction, this court will cut them off. Are you sure? I swear it on my gavel.
Please, come out.
Isn't violence against hair a crime, Your Honor?
Well, if you are sure it is, okay.
The hell? Now, the prosecution... Wait a minute. Would the prosecution care to explain the witness's, paraphernalia? Will be no flash photography in my court.
Yes, she is a professional, Your Honor. Those are merely the tools of her trade. And that would be...
My name is Olga O'Reilly.
It's Orly, isn't it? But I see... Because I'm a dinosaur, I see the ancient meme, oh really? Kristoff seems like a very good attorney.
I'm employed as waitress in Borscht Bowl Club restaurant.
Then why the camera?
Of course, it is my pride to serve borscht, that is naming restaurant. But I also perform how it is said, other service.
I take it one of these other services taking the customer's pictures?
Da. Like, for example, this one.
God, Phoenix. You're a pianist at a club. Present yourself like one. That's the defendant.
Indeed, on the night of the murder.
Man in white hats is one who has gone kaput.
Indeed, that is the victim. Order. This is quite a piece of evidence to casually drop into our laps.
It is the same way as I drop cold bowls of borscht on laps of customers casually.
I like her. Then the court will casually accept this new evidence. I'll give the judge credit because I give credit where credit is due. The judge has not said one thing that made me want to rip off his head Sub-Zero style. I know that's a low bar, but I do admit he is clearing it at this moment.
Now, witness, where were you at the time of the murder?
I was in a room, the hideout, we call it.
Excuse me? The hideout?
It is a room where famous gangster Baghdadi was arrested. It was a room where murder took place.
What?
Your look of utter surprise, it is lovely. I will post by courtroom door later for you. Photos will be numbered and you will write which ones you want copy of.
So there were 3 people in the room at the time of the crime. The victim, Shady Smith, Mr. Wright, and Olga O'Reilly, our witness. And if Mr. Wright isn't the killer, that means... Very well, witness. You will testify to the court about that night's events. I'm not sure if I've touched on this before. If I'm Apollo here, I consider everything she just said as testimony. Because at this point, she's already been sworn in, which means if he found anything odd about any of that she said before, even if it wasn't included in this little piece of, I would call this a piece of testimony, one section of testimony, I would still go back there and cross-examine any of those other statements if any of them turned out to be odd.
That night, customer asked me to deal cards for game. It was called both players played with hats on, The victim, he plays the whole time with his hand on locket on his neck. Then last hand is done, but something terrible has happened, That man flew at victim and is strangling him to death.
Incidentally, who won the game?
Isn't it obvious? The winner was the victim, Mr. Smith.
I mean, did he really win? Looks like he was the loser to me. Obviously not, because he's dead. He is the ultimate loser. That's ridiculous because Mr. Wright can't lose. Justice? Maybe you can come up with a more legitimate objection? But he hadn't lost in 7 years.
Take it from me, kid. It happens. I didn't lose a case my first 7 years as prosecutor either. And incidentally, I have some evidence here. These are the poker chips as they lay at the very moment of the crime.
Okay, Mr. Smith has more chips, yeah.
The hand and chips on this side belong to the defendant, Mr. Wright. Those on the far side belong to the victim, Mr. Smith.
Chips, you say?
I mean, yes. Imagine that poker is war. Your hand is your army, and the chips are the spoils.
I know that. After all, in my youth, I was known as the poker head of courtroom number 3. I think he means poker face.
Looking at this picture, it does seem that most of the chips are on the victim's side of the table. Very well, the defense may cross-examine the witness. All right,
I would much prefer to play against Phoenix. As long as he didn't have the the Magatama. If he had the Magatama, I gotta go Edgeworth. Even though I think Edgeworth is a better overall poker player, Duke could just straight up tell if something's afoot.
Okay, I want to check. Damn, he had a full house too. They both have full houses. Kings over aces versus sevens over aces.
So Phoenix lost that hand. I'm assuming the red chips are the lower denomination. There are a lot of bottles there. Why is it misty? Oh, sweet. We get to do this from the get-go. Although I don't think I'm supposed to do this yet. Oh, what is this?
Wow, the batteries are held in with a piece of tape.
You should just buy a new one. Maybe he can't afford it. Or he just doesn't care. Dude, take it off. Oh, fine. All right, keep that in mind. She said he strangled him, but the death was caused by a blow to the head. Let's see if we can get some more information first. You were dealing cards. Do you do this often?
Da, I am doing this. If customer wishes it, I serve anything. Borscht, cards, more borscht. It is my work.
it's good to hear of a place that hasn't forgotten the meaning of service.
Welcome you to Borscht Bowl Club, where borscht is as warm as the waitresses.
Thank you for not handing out flyers during the cross-examination. It's already April. How can it be cold?
You've never been to Wisconsin, bro. At the Borscht Bowl, we have pride on authentic rustic Russian restaurant theme. Outside it is city in spring, but inside it's always as cold as Mother Russia.
No way am I going there.
When it comes to hot borscht, cold is best seasoning, da?
Hard pass. His locket?
I believe it was good luck charm, da? He gripped it many times as he played that night.
Yes, he must have felt as though it might carry him to the moon and the stars. Though if it were small enough to fit around his neck, it wouldn't have much lift.
The defense would like a clarification. This is a locket we're talking about? I mean, a pendant with a picture in it, right? Not a rocket? Of course, I knew that.
It was probably a pendant shaped like a rocket. That's why she called it that.
No, a locket's a locket.
It's considered bad form to poke fun at the hard of hearing in our society.
Hard of hearing or hard of understanding? Okay. I get what he's saying, but this is really important that the judge understands what the accuracy of everything that is being told here and said. So this is a little bit different from, oh, you're being rude. No, the judge needs to fucking know what the difference between a locket and a rocket is.
So what happened next?
Something terrible? The defense will refrain from needlessly shouting. Sorry, I need to seriously reconsider this vocal training thing. That's a legitimate criticism. Like, you can't yell at the witness like that.
Now, Miss O'Reilly, can you tell us what happened?
Oh, I was so frightened. Da. I trembled with fear.
But the defendant would never do such a thing. Well, now, I can't say I've ever heard the defense try this tactic.
If possible, please, refrain from embarrassing me.
Still, why would anyone do something like this over a game of poker?
Perhaps it is because the defendant has lost game?
Yes, a crushing defeat for a man undefeated. So it always is with men like him. The winners make sore losers. Oh, how the mighty fall.
Go ahead, I believe you know what it is you need to do.
Right, sir. Leave it to me. There were only 3 people in the room at the time of the murder. Victim, Shady Smith, Mr. Wright, and if Mr. Wright is the killer, I've got you now, really. Oh, that didn't work. The witness's statement is clearly faulty, Your Honor. I'm sorry, but I see nothing faulty. The murder weapon is the bottle. All she said that happened was strangling his neck. That's literally a contradiction. Right, game obviously wants me to do something else. Unfortunately, I will have to penalize you, Mr. Justice. I must be on the wrong track. No, the game's on the wrong track. Oh, I see. I'm supposed to present this. Okay, that's fair. I think technically either of them would work and should work in that scenario, but sure, okay, fine. Oh, really? Strangled, you say? That's odd.
Duh. Normal customers only choke on boars.
No, I mean, this report shows that the victim died of a blow to the head. Ah, Miss O'Reilly, really now? Did you witness the crime? Ah! That was sick. That was sick. That was quite impressive. Looking at the picture, it doesn't seem like he was hit. He's still wearing his hat and everything.
Yet it is a fact that he was hit, Your Honor.
Oh my, his head is split open.
Here's the photo we took of the victim with his hat off during their investigation.
Well, that's quite shocking, isn't it? Can't you hear in my voice how shocked I am? This head certainly was hit.
But I have seen it happen. The defendant, he lunged at victim, his neck.
Oh really, Miss O'Reilly? I think I've caught you in your own lie this time.
Justice, I admire your enthusiasm, but perhaps you should think this through once more.
What do you mean? I found a contradiction.
There's one thing in her testimony that troubles me.
Very well. It seems we should continue the cross-examination. There's such a thing as thinking too much. This horse is dead. Let's stop beating it.
There's such a thing as thinking aloud too much, too.
What is it? Is it the locket? No, there was one curious part in her testimony, just like Mr. Gavin said. But what does it mean? Mr. Justice, would you care to explain what it is you're thinking so intensely about? Yeah, normally you don't just say objection and then not say anything afterwards. I've never seen that happen. I think the closest something like that would be to like real life is something like Edgeworth did, where he was like, objection. What is it, Mr. Edgeworth? I'm just trying to think of what I should be objecting to, or whatever that was. Recall the testimony, Your Honor. The victim played with his hand on locket at his neck. I believe she said.
I hope you weren't about to raise an objection to the witness's grammar.
No, but look at this photograph. Every time I do, it makes me laugh.
Yes!
How did my eyes get so red? What the hell's on Jimmy's head? We haven't been able to do that since case 1-5. Case 1-5 was the last time. Do you see a locket on the victim's neck?
Well done, Justice. I'm impressed. I knew you'd be able to handle this.
But what does it mean? If we are to believe this witness's testimony as is, then the locket disappeared following the victim's death. Lockets don't just disappear, Your Honor.
Quite simple when you think about it. The locket is gone, someone must have taken it off, no?
Taken it off? Wait, you don't mean...
The defendant wasn't strangling the victim at all. He was taking off his locket. Wouldn't that explain it?
Ah. Yeah, because he has a chain on now. Defendant, what do you have to say to this? Say, yes? I just noticed this, but you have something hanging around your neck, don't you?
Oh, you mean this?
Yes, it's a locket with a photograph inside. A photo of my daughter. Why so many bombshells? In one trial. Come again? Mr. Wright, you have a daughter?
We confirmed it at the time of the arrest. The picture in the locket is indeed Mr. Wright's daughter.
So Mr. Wright has a locket too? Why don't I buy that this is just a coincidence?
Further testimony won't really be necessary. It's clear the defendant lost, badly.
Miss O'Reilly, you will testify to the court about the game played between the victim and defendant.
Game began with 3,500 points in chips for each man. All chips come in two sizes, small and large. The one who was winning, it was victim. For last hand, the victim was play with all chips on table and lose. The moment loss was decided, defendant grabs bottle from table and...
Let her finish her sentence!
She grabs the bottle and...
Indeed, looking at this picture... Dude! Let her finish her fucking testimony. It does seem to be a one-sided game. And if she wasn't going to finish her sentence, if I'm the judge, I'm like, please finish your sentence. This is very important.
As the court knows, poker was the defendant's life. Failure must have been a bitter pill to swallow.
How many times have I heard these words? I done it in a fit of anger, Your Honor, and now I regret it. A common tale, but true. He thinks the judge watches too many old court movies. Mr. Wright said he hasn't lost in 7 years, so this testimony must be wrong. Oh, yeah, actually, I should check this. Do we have... Can we look at the profiles? It doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like there's an option to check profiles. In the top right, when there's text, you can check profiles. Okay, cool. Gotcha. Okay, that's good to know. Are those the usual starting points? Were any special rules used?
No, not special. Usual game, usual rules.
If each man began with 3,500 points, then the total would be, exactly 7,000 points. Please, this isn't calculus. It's not even long division. It's not either of those things. That was addition. Two of the same number put together. Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Kristoff. Oh, they're all idiots. All of them is what he's thinking.
All ships come in two sizes, small and large.
Are the chips in this photo all the chips that were used?
Of course.
Something's fishy with these chips. Should I press harder? No need. Maybe you could explain a bit about these chips.
Explain?
Aha! She said the defendant was all in, right? Or was it the victim that was all in? Because if the red chips are actually the more expensive chips, then Phoenix would be winning.
Explain what is there to be explained.
Relax, Squeaky.
Poker chips are poker chips. They're not fishing chips. Not a chip off your block, not a motorcycle captain.
Thanks. Now that I've pressed her, I better ask something. What are these chips worth? Are they in dollars? Or rubles, even?
Yes, as I've been saying before, it was a game, not gambling. Hard perhaps for capitalists to understand.
Hey, do we gotta get our personal political philosophies involved here?
Two types of chips, 100 points and chips and 1,000 points chip. It is not money,
Justice? Sir, don't you find her comments interesting? In more ways than one, sir. I'd have it added to her testimony myself. Well, does the defense want the witness to add to her testimony? Yes, I do think this deserves further scrutiny. Add it to the testimony. I wish I knew where I was going with this. Very well, witness, if you would be so kind. Your Honor. Mr. Gavin said this testimony is important. To be honest, I have no idea why. Mr. Justice, do the court a favor and think of what you want to say before raising your hand. We are not in kindergarten. Sorry, I'm fine. Better think of something to ask. Quick. The two types of chips. The small ones are 100 and the big ones 1,000? Right, of course.
Huh. Don't waste our time.
Dude, ask the question. You didn't ask the question. Oh, God. That's a legitimate question. Is that all? Yeah. Great. Mr. Gavin made me stop her, and now I'm the one who looks dumb. Oh, Justice, please try not to embarrass me like that. Who, me? There's a clear contradiction in the information you have in your hands. What? It's a simple matter of calculation. Go on, try it. We're not in kindergarten after all. Calculation? You're telling me that Mr. Wright, undefeated for 7 whole years, was losing?
It must have been the most unlucky day for him. I'm glad I did not take another picture of him. It would break camera, certainly. The chips, they went always to the victim's side of table.
So you're telling us it was a one-sided game?
One-sided then.
Last hand?
It was largest point of any hand. The defendant's hand, it was excellent. He tried to use it to take victory from behind.
It appears that both the defendant and the victim's hands are in this picture. That is truly an excellent hand. However, so is the victim's.
One with highest number wins, so defendant loses.
The victim, Mr. Smith, had a stronger hand than the defendant and crushed him. I believe that explains what occurred next.
Once cards laid down on table, it happened. And what happened next? Even to think of it now, I shake and tremble, da. I did not believe such thing would happen.
What such thing?
Please, you must believe, I have no idea. How could such thing occur?
What such thing?
Yet. The defendant had been hitting victim. I saw it all happen right before me. Saw bottle coming down on victim's head.
Decisive, isn't it, Your Honor? My witness saw the very moment of the crime.
I'm gonna have to do math here, so 1, 2, 3, 4.
Still, it doesn't change that Phoenix did lose. Although maybe that picture suggests something else. How do I present this? You're sure it was the victim who won? Absolutely sure.
It seems our new attorney is a bit confused. A glance at the picture is enough to tell you who won, if you're not in kindergarten.
Just for safety's sake, could you explain the problem to the court? Of course, Your Honor. In this photo, I see small chips and I see large chips. Tell me, which were worth 1,000 points?
Why, the big ones, of course, duh.
Oh, I thought so too, but then the totals don't add up.
The totals?
I'll give Payne some credit here. Most of us that become attorneys because we suck at math and couldn't become engineers or something like that. Or doctors. Each man started with 3,500 points in chips. And the combined total value of the chips was 7,000 points. Yes, if my calculations are correct. Let's see, 3 plus 1, carry the 5. 33. So this is exactly 7 years after Trials and Tribulation. He's actually a year younger. That's interesting. I would have thought he was older. There are, Your Honor. Now, look at the photo that allegedly shows all the chips. If the big chips are worth 1,000 points and the small chips are worth 100, and you add them up,
How much is it?
do it yourself. You aren't in kindergarten, are you? 10,600 points. The chips don't add up. This clearly contradicts the witness's testimony.
But why? How could this be?
Exactly, Justice. Now that you know the what, you must determine the why. Right, there's only one possible way to explain this contradiction. The other thing here is the number of chips. No.
Just a kid.
Yeah, that's true. Starting points were wrong? No, they were both right. They were both right. Each man began the game with 3,500 chips. If all the chips are indeed shown in the photograph, then there can be only one answer. Well, what is it? The value of the chips was the other way around. What? Want to know what I think? The small chips were worth 1,000 points, not the big ones.
Madness, utter madness.
Show me the photograph of the chips again. There are 6 small chips and 10 large chips. Wow, that does make 7,000 points when you add them up. Excellent work, Justice. It's almost as though you figured it out by yourself. Well, I'm just glad I was the one who...
But wait, the value of the chips may be different, but that changes nothing.
Indeed, the victim did have a larger number of chips still. Exactly. If the small chips are 1,000 points and the large chips are 100, let's do a little math. Add up the points for each side of the table. The victim, Mr. Smith, had 2,900 points, and the defendant had 4,100 points. Well now, it seems that Mr. Wright was winning that night after all.
That's impossible.
My client had even less reason to kill the victim. After all, he was winning.
Yeah!
Now, Miss O'Reilly, you must have known the true value of the chips, since you were there at the scene of the crime, weren't you?
Yeah.
That's cool. That's so cool. Yeah, I like Apollo so far. He's good. I was worried that he was going to be like an overly eager, kind of obnoxious guy, but he's more energetic than Phoenix, but he has a similar charm. In fact, it seems as though he's taken all of Phoenix's charm. Olga is capable if she wasn't a murderer. I don't know, I'm just assuming she's a murderer, because who else could it be then? Order. It appears our defendant has lost his motive, and Mr. Wright's supposed defeat never happened. We must now ask ourselves whether we can trust
Excuse me? What is it, Miss O'Reilly?
I did not want to be saying this, but actually, you see,
See what, Mrs. O'Reilly? Miss O'Reilly? What do we see?
in the last hand, there was cheat.
A cheat? You don't mean a trick? Wait, or do you mean a scam?
They're all the same thing. Yes, there was cheats in the last hand. That is why game ends with chips as they are.
Great, just great. First we have lying, now cheating.
Well, this case certainly has taken a turn. For the interesting.
Witness, you will please testify to the court. Tell us about this cheating in the final hand. Would the Magatama and spirit channeling be considered cheating in a real-life court of law? If I were the other attorney, I'd call for a mistrial because of interference with matters not entirely understood.
The last hand, both men had full house. There is 4 of each card in deck from ace to king. You look at both men's hands, cheat is more obvious. The next moment, game becomes argument, da. The defendant's trick was exposed. He took bottle in his hand, poor Mr. Smith.
Is it obvious? There's 4 aces and 3 sevens and 3 kings. It's so really. Why did you not tell the court about this from the beginning? Thought I smelled a cover up here. Well, folks, it's time to throw back the covers. A full house is a very high-scoring hand. Not easy to make, in my experience.
Let alone is enough to suspect less than scrupulous tactics.
Bruh, I have... Okay, yeah, so I've lost with a full house against a full house. And it was quite frustrating. It happens. Maybe I was cheated. I'm gonna have to go talk to Tone about this. The man that beat me with that hand. Mr. Gavin, what's a full house?
Lawyers these days, you don't know your poker?
I can't say this bodes well for your case or career. Oh yeah, because he doesn't know what a full house is in a card game. What is this, some kind of secret court poker ring?
Justice, you know the terms 1 pair, 2 pair, and 3 of a kind, yes?
Yeah, no problem. 2 cards with the same number makes a pair, and 3 makes 3 of a kind. Good, now picture a hand with 1 pair and 1 3 of a kind. That's a full house. Doesn't sound very easy to make, does it?
You can see each player's hand in this photo.
Wow, they both have full houses.
You forget, there's an easy way to make a full house. And go undefeated for 7 years. You cheat.
The defense may cross-examine the witness. If he did cheat in the last hand, that still leaves one important question. Mr. Wright lost that hand. Who's ever heard of a professional con man losing when they cheat? Alright, let's take a look at this again. There are 4 aces here. There's 1 of each suit. I don't see where the cheat is. Diamond, spade, heart of the kings. Club, heart, diamond 7. What is the cheat? I think she's lying, but like, how do we... Where do we need to point that out? Just how hard is it to make a full house anyways?
It is quite hard, It is making a pair and 3 of a kind at the same time.
I guess that's right. Very difficult to be sure. You can take my word as the poker head of courtroom number 3.
Very difficult, but it's not impossible.
Okay, full house, hard. This line of questioning, a waste of time. 4 of each card, you say?
There is 1 spade, 1 diamond, 1 heart, and 1 club for each hand, for each card. It is interesting fact that this number 4 comes from number of seasons.
Huh? You don't say. Did you know the cards are numbered 1 to 13? Add all the cards in the deck and you get 364 a year. Huh? You don't say. Isn't that 1 day short?
That's why each deck has 2 jokers. They say the second joker stands for the leap year. Thus you have a perfect representation of the year, all in a deck of cards.
Huh, you don't say. We're going to be in this courtroom for a year if it keeps going like this. That is something I legitimately did not know. That's really interesting. How is it clear?
Well, the defendant, he played a 5th ace.
A 5th ace?
I still remember both hands very well.
Wait. No, he had kings over aces.
Mr. Smith had 3 aces. And Mr. Wright, too.
Obviously cheating was afoot, or perhaps I should say ahead.
And perhaps this can be added to the testimony without Mr. Payne's joke, of course.
Very well, the witness will add this detail to her testimony, please.
Mr. Smith had the 3 aces and Mr. Wright's 2. There's 5 aces in all. No, it does not, you filthy, filthy fucking liar. There are... Oh, God. Just insult me with this. We're not even going to go through the rest of it. Appears the witness is mistaken. Mistaken? But my name... Look, this piece of evidence clearly contradicts what you said in your testimony. That's the photo of the chips, is it not? Justice, perhaps you ought to explain your point in a way that the judge can comprehend. In other words, use your finger to point out your point. Yes, please point out the contradiction in this photo. What particular point contradicts the witness's testimony? Oh, I present now, right? Miss O'Reilly, in your testimony, you made the following claim. Mr. Smith's hand has 3 aces. But as you can clearly see, the victim's hand only had 2 aces. Hey.
Well, maybe the witness was simply confused. Perhaps it was the defendant's hand that held the 3rd ace in question.
Take another look at the evidence. As you can see, the defendant also had 2 aces in his hand. Where's this 5th ace? I see cheating alright, and it's going on right here in this courtroom. I just realized that the courtroom is different. I should really update my overlay to reflect the new courtroom. 2 aces in each player's hand does make 4 aces total. Hardly proof of cheating. Oh, wait, please. It is true, I have seen it. The 5th ace. There was cheating, I swear to you. That's odd. She must be lying, yet she's the most sincere I've seen her all day. You're right to trust your instincts. Mr. Gavin, who knows what lies in store for us in the trial ahead? Your Honor, if I may, I have a suggestion. What might that be, Mr. Gavin? If you don't mind, perhaps we might examine the actual cards. The cards? Mr. Payne.
Yes?
The players' hands that night were set aside as evidence, were they not? The defense would like to request that the cards be shown to the court. Very well, the prosecution will submit the evidence. Which will you examine? The victim's cards or the defendant's cards? These cards don't prove cheating was going on, nothing will. Now, which of these hands is more suspicious? It's the victim's hand, because she said that he had 3 aces, but he only had 3 kings. It was the victim's hand that changed over the course of the witness's testimony. The defense requests time to examine Mr. Smith's cards. Very well, Mr. Payne, if you would.
Very well.
Well, time's a-wasting. Get to it, Justice. Yes, sir.
I love Kristoff.
In examining evidence, be sure to view it from all sides and angles. Try using the dials on the evidence viewer. That should give you a better perspective on the case. Okay, let's do this. So first of all, let's zoom. Oh! What? Your Honor, look at this. One of the victim's cards. The back is a different color. Ugh! That's impossible. But I put that card in Wright's hand. What was that, Miss O'Reilly? No, yet. I merely said, I have... Your Honor?
Mr. Gavin, yes?
Tell me, what is the easiest way to cheat at poker? To cheat? I'll tell you. One merely needs a friend. A comrade, shall we say. I rather liked that one. The dealer. Wait, so you mean this witness, Miss O'Reilly, she's the cheater, a professional, I'd wager. Nyar! Yeah, why the fuck would she say that? Order, order. Focus, Justice. Time to take advantage of her. I mean, of her mistake.
Bruh.
Oh god, that was that was not very tactful, Apollo.
Woo! Your Honor, please recall the testimony we just heard.
I didn't say that shit out loud. Cancelled.
Ergo, Miss Olga only conspired to cheat, not with my client, but with the victim, Mr. Shady Smith. Ugh! Not only did she cheated poorly. Therefore, it's not hard to imagine an altercation between her and the victim. What? Wait, you don't mean the defense isn't accusing the witness, Miss Olga? Oh, really? Are you? Time for justice. There were 3 people in the room at the time of the incident. And if Mr. Wright isn't guilty, that means I am. The defense accuses the witness, Miss Olga O'Reilly, of murder. Oh. Still impressive. Where's your witness, Miss Olga O'Reilly?
It appears she has lost consciousness, Your Honor.
Mr. Justice? Your Honor, it seems you've presented a new possibility to the court, one suggesting a connection between the witness and the victim, Mr. Smith. And that means this court cannot pronounce a verdict for the defendant at this time. What? I did it. I see no point in prolonging the trial this day. The prosecution will need to make further inquiries. That was Phoenix. I remember that one. Mr. Wright, you can't end the trial here, Your Honor. Not yet.
What nonsense is the defendant spewing now?
Think, one of the cards had a different colored back. Do you wonder what it means?
What are you doing, Mr. Wright? Raising objections right when you're about to get off the hook. Ridiculous.
Mr. Payne, you of all people should know Mr. Wright has a talent for the ridiculous. Perhaps we should get to the bottom of things. Let's clear up the facts about the game that fateful night. As was said before, we alternated between 2 decks of cards that night.
That was said before.
The 2 decks at the club have different colored backs, blue and red, 1 color per deck. Why use different colored backs? If we use the same color, the 2 decks might get mixed. You used different colors and they still got mixed up. We used the red deck for the last game. I see, but that's odd. For some reason, I have this impression that you were using the blue cards. Yeah, me too. I'm sure someone said something about blue cards.
Whatever. Yeah, way to dismiss that. In the end, 1 card of the wrong color got into the mix, which means there was cheating.
Yes, the card slipped into the deck which seemed to indicate cheating, yet this card raises 2 serious questions. Apollo? Yes? Let's consider this first question, shall we? Think. In the last game, when was the card swapped? When? There are 3 broad possibilities here. It could have been swapped before the murder, during the murder, or after the murder.
Well, yeah, thanks for the news bulletin, Mr. Wright. Of course it was swapped.
Oh? It might be as simple as you think, Mr. Payne, or it might not be. Ugh. Phoenix still owning Payne even on the defense stand. I'd like to hear what Apollo thinks first. When do you think the cards are swapped? When was the card swapped into the deck? So the king was swapped, and it was really supposed to be a 3rd ace, which she was supposed to have put in Phoenix's deck, which she said that would have happened before the murder. The king being put in there had to have been done then after the murder, but why? I also don't see how they swapped the card into the deck and they didn't realize it was a completely different colored card, because it's the cards are upside down. You should be able to see the blue back when you're dealing. So that means it has to be one of these 2. Yeah, I would agree. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. It has to be after. Perhaps it happened after the murder?
What's that? Ridiculous. What's the point of cheating after the heads have been shown? That's silly.
Yes, but tell me, how do you swap cards during the game? I'll take silly over impossible.
Take it from me, son. There's a lot of silly in this world, but very little impossible.
Oh, even when the backs of the cards are a different color, if you pulled that during the game, you'd be caught in no time. Quite true. That would mean that the blue card in question was swapped after the hands were shown, after the murder.
Okay, this is going past silly and straight out of crazy. I ask again, what's the point of cheating after the game's over? Who would do that?
Oh, indeed, that's one of the mysteries before us. There's another? Yes, a simple yet decisive question must be asked. Who swapped the red card for a blue card? Who? The game and murder is done. The victim is dead. Only 2 remain in the room, alive, that is. The defendant
Phoenix Wright and our witness, Olga O'Reilly. Okay, so who was it that swapped the red card for a blue card?
So it wasn't her, because it's indicated that we believe that she was telling the truth and that she thought there were 3 aces there. So if she thought 3 aces that were there, she would not have known about this swap, which means it had to have been Phoenix or someone else. One who swapped the cards was Mr. Wright. It was you, wasn't it? Why would I do such a thing? Well, because maybe you were trying to hide the fact that you cheated? That would make sense, but the swap cards was in the victim's hand. Oh. Sorry, I'm a nice guy, but I'm not that nice. Come to think of it, he would lack a motive for helping his opponent win. Okay, so it was somebody in the room, but it had to have been somebody else. Otherwise, we don't believe what she said earlier about being genuine about believing that there were 5 aces on the board. The one who swapped the cards wasn't Mr. Wright, of course, and well, doesn't seem like it could have been Olga really either. What are you suggesting? It's hardly a logical conclusion, I'll admit. As the defense, I think it only makes sense for you to name Miss O'Reilly at this point. Yes, I know, but she was the one who dealt the cards, right? I just can't believe she would make the mistake of swapping the wrong colored card. And if the card was swapped during the game, it'd be obvious. Something you'd like to share with the court, Mr. Wright? Oh, my apologies, Your Honor. I was just thinking how much fun all this is.
Fun? This isn't fun. Objection to the fun, Your Honor. How about confusing? I have no idea what the defense is claiming, Your Honor. If the one who swapped the card wasn't the defendant, and it wasn't Miss O'Reilly, then who was it?
Yeah, well, that is the question, isn't it? Precisely. Huh? I believe we're about to see this case take a new direction.
A new direction?
We'll find that, indeed, after the murder, someone swapped one of the cards in the victim's hand, and that someone made 2 critical mistakes. I'm sure you're going to tell us that the first was swapping the wrong colored card, because the one who did the swap didn't know two colors of cards were being used. The other mistake was the number on the card. Right, the person replaced the 5th ace with a king. I'm sure whoever swapped it wasn't expecting there to be a 5th ace after all. All they knew was that the game had been won with a full house, so they picked up a king from the table and swapped it in.
But there's one problem. According to our case record, that person doesn't exist.
True, not until now, but you have to admit the possibility of a 4th person, though it's more than a possibility. There was someone else there that night at the scene of the crime.
What?
I believe the judge spoke truthfully earlier. You do make trials ridiculous, Mr. Wright. This trial has proceeded on one central assumption, namely that at the time of the incident, there were only 3 people in that room. I believe this new evidence, shall we say, overturns that assumption. The problem is that you chose to conceal this information from the court. I suppose that is a problem, yes? Oh my god. I love how surly Phoenix is now. It's like he found his balls and is just like, fuck being an attorney. Let's go do something else in my life, because I'm Phoenix motherfucking Wright. Court is adjourned for a brief recess. Mr. Gavin, I'll see you in my chambers during this recess. Certainly, Your Honor. Why only one of the attorneys? That doesn't make any sense. Very well, the trial will resume in 20 minutes. That's rare, because if I'm Payne, I object to that as being an ex parte communication, meaning only one party is present when speaking with the judge, which could be problematic for obvious reasons. And that's what confuses me. Why only one attorney? That's very strange. Is it that he's going to try to get more information about Phoenix from Gavin because he knows that Gavin knows Phoenix? Or maybe he asked Gavin to take over the case in general because it might go a little smoother with Gavin as the lead attorney instead of Apollo? Because if he just wanted to talk about the general ridiculousness of what was going on, he'd have all the attorneys in there. It's very strange. That was quite unexpected, Mr. Wright. To suddenly claim there was another person at the scene of the crime like that. I must ask, is it the truth? Well now, I think you would know the answer to that. Dude, just answer the goddamn question, you surly son of a bitch! Being mysterious, are we? Sadly, I have no time for mysteries. I only ask that you leave the defending to your defense in the future. Otherwise, I cannot guarantee the outcome. I see you haven't mellowed out one bit, Kristoff. Justice. Yes, sir? The judge has summoned me to his chambers, so carry on without me. Carry on what? The trial? Because by the time the judge comes out of the chambers, that means you should be out of the chambers and you should be back on the... Maybe that's what he meant. He's just talking about talking to Phoenix. You did well, Apollo. Can I ask you something? Sure. That locket you wear, is that really yours, Mr. Wright? You're wondering about the victim's disappearing locket. Here, you can take a look at it if that's a picture of my daughter in there. I'm just surprised to hear you had a daughter. Most people are. Perhaps you'll meet her one of these days. One more question. The one who cheated that night, was it you? What do you think? Huh? You know what happened 7 years ago, what I did? It's not unreasonable for you to think I might cheat. I never, honest, but it is odd that he managed to go undefeated for 7 whole years. Want to know something? There's only one game where you can be dealt bad cards all night and still win. Poker. Huh? You see, poker is all about reading your opponent. And that way, it's a lot like a court case. It's true. In poker, you play the opponent, not the hand. Poker is like trial law? Figure out what your opponent is thinking and you win. Well, yeah, but that's harder than it sounds. I think not. Try as they might to conceal it, everyone reveals their true thoughts in the end. Their body language can become a valuable source of information. You're kidding! That witness, for instance, Miss O'Reilly. She would touch the back of her neck during certain parts of her testimony. Did you notice? No? Come on, who'd notice that? Somebody that's paying attention? Words, habits, twitches, it's all information for the reading. That's the secret to winning, Apollo. Someone taught me, and now I pass the secret on to you. But I'm not worthy! I mean, there's no way I'll pick up on these signals. No, you can do it. Huh? You just don't know it yet. What's he talking about? But you will, soon. Almost forgot. One more thing. About this case. You should know, I haven't told the truth to anyone yet. What? I knew it! I have my reasons, of course. All shall be revealed. And Apollo, I need you to be there, defending me. I need your power. My, power? I had no idea my cords of steel were that special. It's time. The real trial begins now. Do your best. The fuckity fuck? That surly ass look. Court will now reconvene. Has our witness, Miss Olga O'Reilly, recovered?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, she's regained consciousness. Perhaps we can hear a version of the events again?
That's the thing. You see, she's quite fatigued.
You're looking a bit fatigued yourself, Mr. Payne. Sadly, fatigue is insufficient grounds for refusing to testify or prosecute. The defense would like to request that Miss O'Reilly take the stand. Very well. The witness will take the stand. Perhaps you could repeat your name and profession? Or perhaps you'd rather admit that you're a poor liar and a poor loser. Not. Sorry. That was the most, like, okay reveal that I've seen in these games. I'm just like, oh, so she's not a meek Russian girl. She's just she's a pirate. Yeah, the fuck? Name's Olga O'Reilly, that's the truth. I'm a pro dealer. People call me Olga Quick Fingers O'Reilly. Oh, really? Want to know something else? I'm not really Russian, and my last name sounds like, oh, really? Yeah, that's the truth. I hope you're satisfied. I would try to do a pirate voice, but I'm pretty sure I can't do that in a woman's tone. I can only do it in the old gruffer, so you can go R, like super stereotypical like. Witness, you will tell the court what you were really up to that night. Didn't faze Apollo at all. Fine, I'll talk. We had a plan, see? Let me remind you that you are currently under oath, and if further fabrications will have serious consequences. Despite the prior fabrications having no consequences whatsoever. I know that's something I harp on it all the time. It's just really... Like I said, I'm a pro. That guy Smith hired me to do what I do best. I was planted at the Borscht Bowl Club several days prior to the night of the game. As a waitress. So you were in cahoots with the victim. Not that he needed my help. Smith is a well-known poker player in some circles. But winning wasn't the main purpose of this game. It was about destroying a legend, the unbeatable Phoenix Wright. The plan was simple, elegant really. You see, we set up a trap of sorts. I was to plant a card in Wright's pocket beforehand, and then deal 5 aces during one of their games. When their hands were revealed, Smith would call him out and search Wright. He would then pull out the planted card and the trap would snap shut. You swapped the cards. Exposed as a cheater and losing on top of it, it would have made a great double play. Just like that, the legend would be dashed to pieces. Indeed, getting caught red-handed at cheating would cast doubt on all his prior wins. A 7-year legend destroyed by one little card, that was the plan. Nationality revealed. Oh really? Oh really? How droll. But it appears you made quite the mistake. A mistake? I agree the trap was elegant, yet what happened to that planted card? Hey, that's right. He's lucky, I'll give him that. You'd have to be to slip free from a trap laid by Olga Quick Fingers O'Reilly. Oh, really? The waitress would be much cuter if she dispensed with the evil mastermind shtick. Cute? Who wants to be cute? I'm not cute, I'm bad. You hear me? Bad. I'm bad! I'm bad! Really, really bad, you know! When you're through being bad, perhaps you could testify to the court. Tell us about this trap and how it was sprung. DMCA! Copyright strike! It's probably gonna happen on Twitch. That night, I planted the card like I was supposed to, and Wright lost the last hand just like he was supposed to. Then Smith searched him. But the planted card was gone, the trap failed. The next moment, Wright picked up a bottle and swung it. It wasn't me who hit Smith, it was that no-good cheating defendant. Didn't you just admit that he didn't cheat at all, that you're the ones that cheated? A surprisingly frank testimony that still leaves us mostly in the dark. The trap was perfect, I tell you, perfect. If that rotten cheater hadn't messed it up. Look who's talking! Well, the testimony, for what it's worth, is all yours, Mr. Justice. Witnesses like her, who needs criminals? Nice. I actually like that one. And with defendants like Mr. Wright, who needs prosecutors? I'm actually going to give the judge more credit here. The judge has not done one thing that made me want to throw my monitor. And that is saying a lot for him. This planted card, which card was it exactly? The trump card, the 5 of hearts. Let me guess, Mr. Wright was to have switched the 5 with the ace to make a full house. At least, that's what you were going to accuse him of doing, thereby ruining his legend. I slid it in the Wright's pocket. When was this? Why, before the match, of course. While he was eating. At the Borscht Bowl Club, we served borscht and suckers. Remind me never to go there. Of course, the card was to make its grand debut during the game. Like a good borscht, a good plot must be cooked up early and allowed to thicken. So everything went according to plan. Exactly. The 5th ace came up, so it's obvious the switch went off without a hitch. Once the extra card was found in his pocket, Wright would be forever known as a cheat and a fraud. There are worse things to be known as, I suppose. Tell us what happened with the search. The card disappeared? Yeah, my trump card, the 5 of hearts. Gone. Without a trace. Poof, Zippo. We searched every nook and cranny, even inside his cute little hat. But the card was nowhere to be found, is this correct? Never in my long storied career, never has Quick Fingers O'Reilly been so readily duped. Oh really? So what did happen to that 5 of hearts? Don't look at me. Why won't you ask that cheating, lying, two-faced defendant? She's kidding, right? So the 5 of hearts is still missing in action. Wait, isn't that a little odd? What's odd? You searched Mr. Wright thoroughly and found nothing? Which means he didn't cheat, which means he had no reason to strike the victim. Well... What was that just now? I sensed something. Something wrong, Mr. Justice? No, nothing, Your Honor. What to do? Should I press her a little harder? Miss O'Reilly, you're hiding something. What are you talking about? Me? Quick fingers O'Reilly hide something?
The defense will refrain from baseless accusations.
I'm sorry, are you the judge to tell me that? I have one question for the witness then. You say you saw the moment the defendant hit the victim. Is this true? Of course it's true. I did see it, honest. I saw it when Wright hit him. With my own eyes, I saw it. What's this weird vibe I'm getting? I think he's horny. That witness, for instance, Miss O'Reilly, she would touch the back of her neck during certain parts of her testimony. Did you notice? Touching her neck, was it? Oh, this is kind of cool. Whoa, what's going on? I feel like how Apollo's feeling. That's good. That's good game design. The sensation, it's coming into focus. There, that twitch, it's so clear. It's like I could perceive her habit like I couldn't before. Gotcha! Miss O'Reilly, perhaps you are unaware of this yourself. Unaware of what? Whenever you get to a certain part of your testimony, you touch the back of your neck with your left hand. My neck? So what? What indeed, Justice? I hadn't noticed anything of the sort. When she said that part of the testimony, she's subconsciously recalling something. Her body reacts to the memory, and she touches her neck. I'm sure of it. That's not... Okay. He's right. He's probably 100% correct. But if I'm the judge, I just shrug and say, so? She could be recalling anything.
A memory? Would someone care to explain what he's babbling about?
This is highly unusual, but let's ask the defense. You claim the witness is remembering something. Maybe you have evidence of this memory to show us? Her habit is scratching her neck whenever she talks about the moment of the crime. So, what would remind her most of the moment of the crime? So really, whenever you recall the crime that night, you scratch your neck. I've noticed that it happens when you think about the moment of the crime. There must be some reason behind this habit of yours. You believe the weapon that left an inerasable impression on your neck. It's this. The bottle? Whenever she talks about the moment of the crime, she touches her neck. And what reminds us more of that moment than this bottle, the murder weapon? But something doesn't fit. If you were only the witness to the crime, why would that make you touch your neck like you're in pain?
What's he talking about now?
It was Mr. Smith, the victim, who was hit, not you. Gotcha! That took me aback. I was like, boo! Oh, got me. I see.
This is a cross-examination, not a cross-wild conjecture.
Clever.
The witness's habits, they're completely irrelevant.
Justice, I'll admit, I'm a bit confused myself. This is certainly a unique cross-examination. I'll explain later, just trust me. Now is our only chance to break her. Miss O'Reilly, please testify in detail about the moment of the crime, the very moment. Yet, I am knowing nothing. We know you're not Russian. The witness will testify, please, now. Fine. That's really funny, though. Like, we'd actually be like, oh, yeah. He's the one who did it. I didn't let him out of my sight until the cops got there. That's not true, because we know that he went to call the police. You seem uneasy. You try sitting up here. Not a bad retort. Her eyes are darting all over the place. I must be getting warm. Tell me, after the crime, what was the defendant like? Well, he must have been stunned by the weight of his crime. He sat in a daze at the table until the cops came. Intriguing. I believe you've gotten all the testimony you're going to get out of this witness. So, what do you think about her testimony?
I'll tell you what I think. Her testimony is flawed.
Is basically bogus. It contradicts the evidence.
What's that?
Well, show us this evidence, Mr. Justice. This evidence that you claim contradicts her testimony. You didn't let him out of her sight until the cops got there. I know there's some evidence that contradicts that. The phone. And so really, we have a record here that clearly contradicts what you said. It states that the police were alerted by a report from the defendant. And we know that the defendant left the room, climbed the stairs, and made that phone call from the first floor of the Borscht Bowl Club. So, explain how you kept your eyes on the defendant when he left the room entirely. Wow, those are some funny selfies. The man who picked up a bottle and swung it that night wasn't the defendant.
You dirty cheat, check his pockets now.
It's gone! The card's gone! You lose. Just then, Smith grabbed the bottle from next to right, and he hit me.
You some master of cheating you turned out to be.
Ick! When I came to, the victim was already dead, is that it? That's why I couldn't reveal who I really was. If it came out that I was in league with Smith, I'd be a suspect for sure.
Well, where does this leave us?
He's just sitting up there like, well, now I don't know what the fuck's going on. What a great reaction. I forget who said it, but I think you were right. It seems like he has taken what I've said to him to heart over those 7 years. Instead is actually, now this is, I feel like, the way everyone else views the judge in general. And the way I did not see the judge in the first 3 games, because he was more irritating than anything.
Madness, this is madness, I'm dreaming. Must have been me who was hit with a bottle, and I'm imagining all this.
It appears our prosecution is at his wit's end, and frankly, I can't blame him. Mr. Gavin, what do you think about this turn of events? Mr. Gavin, sir? I believe that, as the defense in this case, we are compelled to call Miss O'Reilly a big, fat liar. What? 3 were in that room the night of the murder, the defendant, victim, and her. And she has a motive. A motive? Motive. Her plot foiled, the witness got into an argument with her client, Mr. Smith. And the denouncement of that argument, not denouncement, denouement? I've heard that word before. How is it pronounced? Denouement? Is that how it's pronounced? Of that argument was murder. What? I'm no killer. It's a trap. Someone's trying to frame me. Mr. Wright, why are you laughing maniacally? What tangle webs we weave when we practice to deceive. So tangled we catch ourselves in the process. Good fucking God. Did he, like, after that trial, go to Godot in prison and, like, just talk with him every day? He decides to leave practicing law and instead speak like a... Oh, God. Mr. Wright? It's such a hasty conclusion. It's not like you, Kristoff Gavin. What are you saying? Why not consider the other possibility? That there was another person in the room at the time of the murder. Right, like Mr. Wright was saying before recess. A single card was swapped in the victim's hand after the murder, and the one who swapped the card didn't know 2 colors of cards were being used. A 4th person.
This theory again, your fourth person doesn't exist.
You don't exist, man! Indeed. That's why I decided to bring this case to court. Here, where there's no escape and no chance for deception. The perfect place to catch the real criminal. The real criminal. And we're in luck. A clue to the real criminal's identity was kindly provided for us. Right at the beginning of the trial, no less.
What?
Apollo, perhaps you know what I'm talking about. Sorry? Remember what I said. Fourth person who swapped the cards made one critical error. He or she wasn't considering the color on the backs of the cards. Right, but how could such an obvious mistake occur? The cards were used for the last game were red. Yet, there was one person here, in our court, who thought those cards were blue. Yeah, I had that impression too, but why? Well, Apollo, think you can figure out who it was?
It's not me, I swear!
Who is this the fourth person? Why do I always get put on a spot like this? Let's hear what the defense has to say. Who was it? Who thought the cards used in the final game were blue? As I expected, your eyes and ears are as sharp as your hair. I was right? Kristoff Gavin, you were the fourth person that night. But of course Mr. Gavin knows the color of the cards. How would he? As you can see, the photo of the crime scene is black and white. You can't tell which of the cards are blue, the ones on the floor or the table. But look! You can see the colors in this photo. Yes, but when he said the cards were blue, it was well before this evidence came to light. Oh yeah. Well, Kristoff? Mr. Gavin? Mr. Gavin, is something the matter? No, nothing, excuse me. It was just so sudden. Right, you aren't seriously accusing me, are you? Oh, Kristoff, you know even I'd never take a joke this far.
This has gone beyond ridiculous, beyond dumb. This is insanity. The defendant accusing his own defense attorney of murder?
I assure you, I'm quite sane.
But what possible connection could Mr. Gavin have to the victim?
I wasn't aware that I had a connection to Mr. Smith either.
Yes, but Mr. Gavin and the victim have never even met.
Well, what if they have?
Huh?
There is a possibility, after all. They may have met that night before the game started. What are you suggesting? Is this the truth Mr. Wright was staying silent about? Well, only one thing to do. Mr. Wright, the defense would like to request that you testify to the court. The defense would like to request no such thing. Mr. Gavin? Testimonies must relate to the case. How could anything happen before that game of poker be related?
There's conspiracy to commit murder. That would be related.
I'm not sure I follow, Mr. Gavin. As I explained before, the defense believes that Mr. Really... Am I to assume you speak for Mr. Justice in this? He is the defense, not you. Ha! Mr. Justice, the matter of Mr. Wright's testimony is up to you. Oh, okay. Oh. Does the court, in your opinion, need to hear Mr. Wright's testimony? Yes. This was Mr. Wright's strategy. He was planning this all along, and I intend to see it through. The defense would like to request that Mr. Wright testify to the court. It's to Justice? You would betray me, your teacher? I'm sorry, Mr. Gavin. This isn't about loyalty. This is about the truth. Very well. The defendant, Mr. Wright, will take the stand, please. That evening, Kristoff and I had dinner. We sat at the table in this photograph. Shady Smith walked in 5 minutes after Kristoff left. When the trap failed, Smith hit the waitress. The girl was knocked out cold and Smith was uncontrollable. I left to call the police. When I returned, he was dead, blood streaming from a cut on his forehead. That's when I made another phone call to defense attorney Gavin. Mr. Gavin, you were at the Borscht Bowl Club the night of the murder? I dine with him rather frequently.
He talked to the defendant on the phone directly after the murder?
Quite against my will, I had become involved in a murder. I thought I might be in need of a lawyer, so I called him. You were planning this all along, weren't you, Wright? Just because you wanted to drag me into your little murder trial. The only thing I want is the truth, as I did back then and now. Thought my office was doing you a favor when we took on your defense. Appears that I was wrong. Very well, the defense may cross-examine the witness. Justice. Sir? He's lying, and you're going to expose him. Understood, sir. Mr. Gavin versus Mr. Wright. This can't end well. Why can't I have a normal trial? As far as you know, this is a normal trial, because this is your first one. You had dinner with Mr. Gavin? Yes, he dines with me at the Borscht Bowl Club quite frequently. We're enjoying a usual dinner at our usual spot, as usual. Usual. I always eat at the table closest to the piano. I see. Where Mr. Smith was sitting.
So the plates and such on the table were from your dinner?
Indeed. The remnants of my meal with Kristoff. We dined for 2 hours, then Kristoff left. After that, everyone that's in his orbit gets sucked. Yeah, right? He has this weird-ass gravitational pull. 5 minutes? So the two of them could have passed in the restaurant during that time. That would have been a fateful encounter, to be sure.
Oh, Mr. Wright, what was it you said? Kristoff Gavin and Shady Smith may have met?
I believe I did say that.
Hero was all nervous about this meeting, and now we hear they just passed in the hall?
That does seem a little weak as a pretense for murder. Oh, it would be, if that was all that really happened. Come on, Mr. Wright. What are you hiding this time? About this failed trap. This is the same trap that Miss Olga really mentioned. I think I would probably be better equipped than my opponents because I've played these games. Just like that, the legend will be dashed to pieces. Yes, a harmless prank, in essence, is by a quirk of fate that I happen to discover it. I happened to put my hand in my pocket and found a card. The card she planted. Yes, I snuck a peek at it and found it was the 5 of Hearts. I had a feeling something might happen, so I disposed of the card before the game. Disposed where? There was an empty bottle of grape juice I had been drinking right beside me. I threw the card inside the bottle.
An empty bottle of grape juice?
The murder weapon? Yes, I rolled it up and shoved it in. The colored glass makes it hard to see. A battle of wits between the deceiver and the would-be deceived. That sounds like terrific drama. A card inside the murder weapon? That's strange. Did the police miss it in their investigation? Maybe I'll take a look. Mr. Wright, the poker head of courtroom number 3 approves of this battle of wits. Nice. Please revive your testimony with this new information. Why in the bottle? I perceived my opponent's intent immediately. I'm used to entrapment, you see. I knew what was coming. Ho ho, so you struck first. I like that. I know every trick in the book. They don't work on me. At least when you get lucky and stick your hand in your pocket, they don't. Dude, the ultimate lucky person. But ultimate! You made the call to the police from the first floor of the restaurant, correct? Exactly. Cell phones don't get a signal down in the hideout. Was anyone else on the first floor at that time? Not a soul. It was the middle of the night, after all. So there, in the darkened restaurant, I called the cops. After making the call, I returned to the hideout. Didn't seem right to leave the injured waitress alone. And when you returned, the victim was already dead, yes. I'll admit, I was a little startled when I walked in. A little? He was bleeding from his forehead, after all. I guess I'd be startled too if I walked in on a scene like that. Could you explain why you called, Mr. Gavin? I'd obviously gotten involved in a rather sticky affair. I figured Kristoff's law offices would give me a friend rate for my defense fees. Glad to hear you intend to pay. Oh, I'll pay in full, Kristoff. It was I who got you involved, after all. You may find the price of your defense quite high, my good friend. Quite high. Is this the truth that Mr. Wright was talking about? Justice, you know what you have to do. He's lying. Expose him now. Yes, sir. I think he's trying to tell me with this testimony. Truth has to be in there somewhere. Okay. Sat at the table in the photograph. Mr. Wright, if I may. Yes? I've examined the bottle, and I don't see any card in here. No? What, Mr. Wright? Surely ellipsis isn't all you have to say for yourself? Can't say that I know what happened to the card. I did put it in that bottle, however. Huh? Perhaps a fifth person came and took it out? Oh, and a sixth person could have helped. Mr. Gavin, Mr. Wright is your client. My apologies, Your Honor.
I will have you disparaging our investigation either. We looked inside that bottle, there was nothing.
What's going on? Mr. Wright hoodwinking us again? Or did that card just disappear? In any case, please continue the cross-examination. I'm afraid decisive contradictions call for decisive evidence. Oh, push him harder, Justice. Break him. Just like you and the witness in the ring. Go for the KO. Ugh, why do I get the feeling we're not on our client's side anymore? Shay, if you can go without ever drinking, good for you. I fully support it. I need help with coping at times, with many different things. Alcohol's good. But I can also say that I'm very lucky in that I have never, ever been addicted to it. See that? So that's interesting about this game. This game seems, at least, to do a better job of letting you use certain pieces of evidence as correctly pointing out a contradiction, but it not being the decisive contradiction. Put his hat back on, too. That's weird. Mr. Wright, if I may. Yes? Take a look at this photograph of the crime scene. See the victim here? He's wearing a hat. I wouldn't think you could see blood on his forehead. Good point. Justice. Next time you point out an inconsistency, put a little more oomph into it. Mr. Wright, can you explain this to the court? Forgot to mention something. I was the one who put that hat on his head. You? You put the hat on the dead man's head? You wore it through our entire poker game. After calling the police when I returned to the scene, that was in full view. Shining bright, just like in this photograph. And I picked his hat up off the ground and put it on his head.
Well, why'd you do a thing like that?
All I can say is, I'm sorry, but that's the only thing I touched at the crime scene. So, Miss O'Reilly didn't see it? It being the victim's, his head? I'd think not. She was out cold. I believe I was the only one who witnessed his head. Here we go again. Mr. Gavin? Pardon. Just seems that our client is determined to lie his way through this case. Hey, he's still our client, isn't he? I believe that's enough of that. Mr. Gavin? This witness's testimony is more like a travesty. It's riddled with lies. Beginning to see how you came to lose your attorney's badge 7 years ago. Well, certainly have a unique way of treating your clients, Kristoff. I never knew. I believe it was you who threw the first stone. Mr. Wright, if you intend to ever tell the truth about this case, it's now or never. Don't be misled. I haven't told a single lie here. Huh? When I noticed the trap, I put the card in the bottle to dispose of it. And when I put the hat on the victim's head, let's just say I had a reason for doing that as well. Reason? That reason is right here.
Your cell phone? That night, recall that I spoke with Defense Attorney Gavin after calling the police. Just in case, I recorded our conversation. What's this? Now that we're all here, I see no reason why I shouldn't play it back for the court. Kristoff, I seem to be in a bit of trouble. What's this? Game not going well? Something like that. That gentleman who challenged you turned out to be good? Turned out to be dead. Someone hit him hard. You mean someone cracked that flawless bone china plate? Wait, bone china pate? Oh, pate? Pate? I have no idea. It wasn't you, was it? Me? Please, the cops should be here any minute. I'm in your hands, should it come to that. Oh, it was plate. Did I just not see the L? Bone china plate? A kind of porcelain, very smooth and shiny. Not plate, but no, okay. Okay, I'm not going crazy. I'm not going crazy. I believe he was referring to a certain gentleman's balding forehead. I still don't know what that word is. The court appreciates the defendant's discretion in not indicating my forehead. Wait a second, something's not right about that phone call. How would he know what his head looked like if he had the hat on when he would have seen him initially? So after Mr. Gavin ate dinner with you, he left the Borscht Bowl Club? Most certainly. Then how did he know? When did he see this bone china word? Oh, that's right. Yes, that was when I began to see my good friend in a different light. Troubled, I returned to the crime scene. When I spotted Mr. Smith's head again, I realized exactly what was wrong. Well, Mr. Gavin, the stage has been set. Perhaps you would like to explain this to the court? Exactly how did you come by your privileged knowledge of the victim's head? So, this is your reason. The reason why you put the victim's hat back on. Your point, Mr. Gavin? It's come down to this, has it? Phoenix Wright. Order, I will have order, Mr. Payne. Mr. Payne's, like, who fucking cares about him at this point? He's just sitting back there like, I have no idea what's going on. Yes, Your Honor? I believe this court has been left with no other choice. Are you prepared to hear Defense Attorney Gavin's testimony? Well, as a prosecutor, Very well, we'll break for 10 minutes. After which Mr. Gavin will take the stand for a cross-examination. Are we clear on that? Crystal clear, Your Honor. Very well, this will be the final recess for the day. He is playing 5D chess. What a boss. His surliness is not unwarranted. Mr. Gavin and Mr. Wright are both in the judge's chamber. Who would have thought today would turn out like this? May I? Huh? What? Hello, sir. Please pick a card. What's this? What's all this about? Is this one okay? Excellent. I have a message for you. The last hand is about to be played. You'll need a trump card to make it. A trump card? The card you have chosen is magical. Use it wisely, and the game is yours. That's all. I don't know how old she's supposed to be, so like, I don't want to give her Pearl's voice, because that's Pearl, and I have no idea if Pearl's ever coming back. And I don't want to give her Emma's voice, because I'm fairly certain Emma's going to be coming in if not in this game, then Investigation, so I'm going to have to make sure Emma's voice is hers and hers alone. An ace, where do I remember that card from? Missing fifth ace. Wait, this blotch of red. Is this blood? You have your trump card. Now it's up to you to cut the deck and draw the truth. Aren't you a little young to be so cryptic? And dressed like that? What the? My father's fate is in your hands. I know you can do it. She seems like she's like 14 years old. And if that's the case, he would have had a daughter since he was like 19. Unless she just looks a lot older than she really is. This bloodstained card is my trump card for finding the truth? I fell deep into thought as my mind raced to understand what this all meant. That girl, I'd seen her recently, but where? That's when I made the connection. In the locket.
She could be adopted. I didn't think about that. That's true. I don't ever think about that, but that's definitely a possibility. Court will now reconvene. Defense Attorney Kristoff Gavin, will you please take the stand? God. Now I'm already breaking my own rule. I'm so... oh God, I'm engaged right now. This is a hell of a way to start off this game. Now then, if you would, Mr. Payne.
Yes, Your Honor. Will Mr. The witness state his name and occupation?
Is this farce necessary, Your Honor?
Believe me, far stranger things have gone on in this courtroom, let me tell you.
Fine, I'll play along.
First, there's one thing we need to have made clear. How'd you know about the secret beneath the victim's hat? By secret, I'm guessing he means the fact that Mr. Smith is bald.
Forgive my curiosity, but what is it about this fellow's head? Your Honor seems to have an inordinate interest in it.
Here we go. Wouldn't call it inordinate, Mr. Gavin. Mr. Wright. Go back.
What do you think you're doing, Wright?
Wow, things sure look different from the other side. You know what I mean, Apollo? Speaking of looking from the other side, let's consider something for a second. The victim wore that hat all night, never once taking it off, except for that one time. That one time being the instant he was hit. Oh. When Mr. Wright returned from reporting the crime, the hat was lying on the floor. Mr. Wright picked it up and placed it on the victim's head. In other words, in order to have seen Mr. Smith's bald head, you would have had to have been at the scene of the crime at the time of the crime. In other words, you'd have to be the real killer. Is that what you're trying to say? Not bad, Apollo. Mr. Gavin,
I'm afraid that I haven't been entirely honest with the court.
Oh, I'm afraid the shield generation will be quite operational when your friends arrive.
I hate it when people... That's like a pet peeve that I don't think I ever consciously knew I have, but I always cringe when somebody says, oh, I'm afraid that blah, blah, blah. Not like, oh, I'm actually afraid, but, oh, I'm afraid that I haven't been entirely honest with the court. Oh. Oh.
What? Oh, I assure you, I had the noblest of intentions. I did it all to protect my clients, Mr. Wright. Yet, I'm afraid in the current situation, I see little reason to hide anything. Very well, allow me to tell you the truth of what happened that night.
Finally, you may begin your testimony. Tell us, how were you involved in the events of that fateful night?
The rage I sensed in that man that night troubled me, so I returned to the club. Went down to the basement and peeked in through the little window to the hideout. Must have been right after the murder took place. The victim was dead, as he appears to be in this photo, a bald head, an unconscious girl, and Wright, holding a bottle in his hand. I sensed that was not the best place for me to be at the time, and so I left. That's when the call came from Wright.
So you witnessed the murder?
Better or worse, I missed the actual moment of the deed.
Mr. Gavin, may I remind you that you are on Mr. Wright's defense team. Your testimony is clearly disadvantageous to your client.
What else could I say? I'm standing on the witness stand, after all.
So you are, Mr. Gavin. You had to testify, as you just did. You had to tell them you saw the scene of the crime through that little window. Mr. Wright, you had to say that, because that was the only probable window of opportunity. Right, Apollo? Oh. Mr. Wright, the defense should do the cross-examination. The defendant. Mr. Justice, are you prepared? Yes, Your Honor. Can't believe I'm going up against Mr. Gavin. This trial is getting weirder and weirder. That man, you mean Mr. Smith? He was different from the other customers. His aura, shall we say. I knew he was a serious poker player. It was more than that.
So then you knew the true nature of your client's job?
Of course, but I also knew he wasn't engaged in gambling, which would be illegal. Well, it makes sense that he'd know. They were friends after all.
Worried for my friend, I returned to the club. You see, for Mr. Smith might be someone coming to settle an old score. I see what happened then. The little window? You mean the one used to keep watch up the stairs? Yes, a relic of the ancient past. The black marketers used it. Marketeers used it, I believe. Why'd you go through the trouble of peeking in through the window? Wouldn't it have been easier to just open the door and go into the room? I didn't want to upset Wright, you see. Upset Mr. Wright? Yes, what if my fears had been unfounded? I'd be walking in on their match, bad form to say the least. So far, everything he's saying makes sense. How do you know it was right after the murder? Really, no need to shout, Justice. Ugh. I was just getting to that part in my testimony. Ah, there he is, the coolest defense in the West we know and love. Even when you're standing up there on the witness stand, some things never change. I was afraid you'd change too, right? But you haven't. You and that overbearing personality of yours. Friends like these, who needs enemies? By photo, you mean the second photograph of the crime scene? Precisely. You see, he wasn't wearing his hat then. I saw his head when he was dead. Then Mr. Wright came along and replaced his hat.
Can you describe the scene of the crime for us?
Those were the only three at the scene of the crime? Yes, as far as I saw, at least.
But we're back where we started. The killer was the defendant, Phoenix Wright. Who else could it have been? But why didn't you talk to the police?
2 reasons. First, I didn't actually witness the very moment of the crime. Second, my office was asked to defend Wright. Even after seeing what I had seen, I couldn't abandon my friend. There must have been someone else there at the moment of the crime. Justice, I just said I saw no one, not a soul. But that goes against what Mr. Wright said. Ah yes, this mysterious 4th person. Who would conveniently be the real killer, I suppose? Let us see we agree, Mr. Gavin. Let me pose a question then. Tell me, what possible reason did the real killer have to swap the cards in the victim's hand? Perhaps you can show us a reason why such a thing would be necessary. How can I show something I can't find myself? Remember, Apollo, the card that was swapped out was the 5th ace. 5th ace, right. Well, Mr. Justice, the question of why the killer would swap out a card has been raised. Can you point to a reason? Now or never, the defense would like to present evidence to the court. Evidence showing the reason why a card was swapped out. Then go ahead and point out your reason, Mr. Justice. Why did the killer take the 5th ace? Do I have to examine it first? My reason is this.
Is that an ace?
Why, it's got blood on it. Right next to the spade. What?
This is insane. Why was I told about this?
That's a legitimate question. Could this be the missing 5th ace? Yeah, right? Phoenix is badass here.
Inconceivable.
How could you? What are you doing with that card? Well, that's the thing. Why is Mr. Gavin so upset? It's just a fishy card from some fishy girl. Oh, that card? It's mine. That is, I picked it up at the Borscht Bowl Club that night after the murder had occurred. Gave it to my daughter. Cards are her stock and trade, after all. That is tampering with evidence. That is very bad. No, impossible, unacceptable. The court can't accept this evidence. It's a fraud. Fraud? How can you be so sure? What? I would think the only person who could claim it was a fraud would be the one who took the real card from the crime scene, the real killer. Allow me to elaborate. What if this trace of blood was the reason?
The reason for
the killer to take the card from the scene of the crime. Where are you going with this? Take another look at the photo and at the victim's head. The moment of the crime, his hat fell to the floor, and a trickle of blood ran from his forehead down the back of his head. Couldn't a drop of blood have fallen on one of the cards? I suppose. The killer then took the card to hide the blood. Regardless, that evidence is non-permissible. Oh? Right, regardless of how you wasted the last 7 years, you used to be a lawyer. You know what a serious crime it is to conceal evidence. Oh, we can discuss the finer points of our legal system later. What's important now is that I've answered your question. What are you talking about? You wanted to know why the killer would have taken a card from the crime scene. And now, I've told you. That one drop of blood would have been decisive evidence, you see. This is baseless conjecture. Baseless! There it is. Oh, does he have facial hair? I don't think I noticed that before. He can't grow facial hair well. Oh, I assure you, it's quite based. What? It's amazing, really. How a single drop of blood on a single card can lead us to the truth. It's quite simple. Well, Apollo? Yes? Try picturing the scene of the crime. In your head. Oh, this is cool. The murder took place in the hideout. The body of the luckless victim was found at the poker table, and before the killer swapped the card out, there was a single card with a drop of blood on it in the victim's hand. Given this, there is one decisive problem with this scene. Well, what is it? Let's keep it simple, shall we? Given that there was a drop of blood on a card, whose position in this diagram doesn't it fit? The victims? The killers? The witnesses? The second witnesses? Whose position doesn't fit the bloody card? Be him, right? Second witness's position is the problem. Second witness. That would be Mr. Gavin, yes? Second witness's position is far less problematic than yours right now, Justice. Perhaps perilous is a better word. Ugh, cannot see what the blood-stained card has to do with the second witness's location. I'm afraid you're more than a penalty this time. Bleh. Oh no, it would be Phoenix, right? What? No. Well, this got swapped out. So it accounts for his position, right? If he got hit over the head in this area, the blood would fall here. Well, for one thing, the killer's in the wrong place, I think. You think? Mr. Justice, your job here is not to think, but to know. Just looking at you reminds me of the old days. Not the good old days, per se. How does a good old penalty sound? God damn it. I don't think I'm looking at this right. I'd be interested to see the reasoning, but if it turns out to be the victim, I don't understand how it doesn't fit. So would it be the witnesses then? I mean, I could keep on going all day because I have a full health bar, but the witness's location is clearly at odds with something. By witness, you mean Miss Olga O'Reilly, right? That's correct. When it comes to cards, it's quick fingers O'Reilly or no one. I see. And? Was I supposed to say something else? You do not sense a great feeling of potential in this silence. Potential for a whopping penalty, yes. So it's got to be the victim. I'm honestly not sure. What am I missing here? What line of reasoning am I missing? Well, isn't it the victim's position that's the problem? I don't follow your logic here, Mr. Justice. Well, look, the victim was struck on the head, sending him back in his chair. I don't think any blood would fall behind his body. You'd think any blood would fall behind his body, not onto the table in front of him. Ooh, I don't agree with that at all. If he got hit here and there was blood that came out, it could have came out immediately and it could have went forward as he was falling back. Maybe I'm not understanding the physics of how that may not be possible, but I don't see that. I guess that's why I was confused. I don't see that as impossible. take a look at the photo again. If he bled in this position, the blood would fall on the floor, not on the cards. I mean, sure, if he didn't start bleeding right away, then yeah, that makes sense. Wow, that's right. So what does this mean? Maybe I watched too much fiction where blood splatters everywhere. Incidentally, we were sitting in swivel chairs. Swivel chairs? Oh man. Hollow, try turning the chair around. The chair was facing the other way. It would have to be. That was cool that you could do that. I like that. This is neat. So we have to assume at the time of the murder, the victim's chair was facing away from the table. When Mr. Wright returned from informing the police, which way was the chair facing? When I came back to the room, the body was facing as seen in this photo. That would mean the killer turned the chair back around. Let's take the next step. Look at the diagram once more. We know that the victim was facing away from the table at the time of the murder, but this creates another significant contradiction. Good? Let's test your reasoning skills again, shall we? Apollo, whose location on this diagram contradicts our new understanding of the crime? The victim, the killers, or the witnesses? This would be the killer then in that circumstance. Unless you hit a major artery. But can it like really gush from the head? Or no, not really. Okay, that's interesting. Even if it did, the splotch of blood would be in a different shape than droplets. I guess the other thing too is why wouldn't there have been more blood around the area as opposed to just the one droplet? I mean, not that that's impossible, but it would be more likely that there would be more, right? Would it have been like more of like a line almost? Interesting. Very interesting. The victim was struck from the front, correct? Indeed. Well, wouldn't it be hard for the killer to hit him from the front, sitting where his indicator currently is? I would think it'd be quite hard, yes.
Yes, but what you're saying makes no sense. Why would the victim suddenly turn to face the wall in the middle of a game?
I believe a sufficient reason will soon come to light.
What? There's something in
what? There's something in this diagram that makes far less sense, actually. Look again at the diagram. Oh, if the victim was struck while he was sitting as shown here, where would his assailant be standing? Try marking it on the diagram. What? But there's no room to put a mark where the killer should be. Don't worry. Let's think it through and see what we find. We know that the victim was facing toward the wall at the time of the crime. The only thing we know for sure. Try to forget about everything else. Where would the killer have to be standing to strike our victim from the front? Well, he's not facing, I mean, he's not facing a wall, he's facing something else there. I honestly don't know what he's getting at. Because I guess you could have done it from like here, or like here, and still, if you swing it left hand, you could still hit him over the head from the front. I wonder how precise this is. I gotta save. I'm confused. I need to read what Phoenix said again. Simple logic, really. If this was the only place the killer could have been standing, then that means that at the very moment of the crime... Wait, I know. At the moment of the crime, the cupboard wasn't there. What's this now? Oh, I was right. I mean, that's the only explanation, right, Mr. Gavin? Your Honor, I have a suggestion for the defense. We should arrange to examine the cupboard in the hideout. Bailiff, send a team to the crime scene immediately. Have them try to move the cupboard. Your Honor? What? There's one more thing your men should look for. Please give this to the bailiff. Yes, I see. You do belong in the courtroom after all, Mr. Wright. I do my best. Let's forge ahead here while we wait. Look at the diagram once again. It's been changed. If the killer was standing here at the time of the crime, then this cupboard wasn't here. Which means, I'll try moving the cupboard. Front of the window. Thank you. As you can see, the cupboard was the problem. The time of the murder. It has to have been shown. It has to have been as shown here. Not everything is in place. Now everything is in place to reconstruct the moment of the crime. Oh my! What's this? What is it now? Look at the diagram of the crime scene once more. It appears we found yet another contradiction. What I believe to be the final contradiction, in fact. Huh? Oh, dang! Notice something, Apollo? Our line of deduction is rapidly approaching its logical conclusion. Now then, Mr. Justice, please point to the new contradiction indicator. Is it the victim, the killer, the witness, the second witness? Which indicator in this diagram contradicts what we know about the crime? He is stunting over everybody. This is how Phoenix should have been like all of Game 3. All of Game 3. Not 7 years after the fact. When do I get to play as that Phoenix right? About this cupboard. Are we all okay with assuming that it was moved? Sure, why not? Well, if it was, something really doesn't fit. The cupboard would completely cover up the window to the stairs. Ah, that's right. Someone standing outside wouldn't be able to see in. Someone like Mr. Gavin. What did you say? Oh, is the coolest defense in the West losing his cool? Don't expect me to play along with your little game, right? It's only a game until someone gets killed, Mr. Gavin. And someone was. While the window to that room was blocked by a cupboard. So, Mr. Gavin, perhaps you'd like to explain to the court exactly where did you witness the crime scene from? Excuse me, Your Honor. Order. This is a court of law, and I will have order. We just now received word from our investigative team at the Borscht Bowl Club. They've examined the cupboard in the hideout, Your Honor. Oh, and what did they find? Well, Your Honor, it turns out there's a secret passage behind it. What? Even just a little facial hair suddenly makes you way more badass. Ah, yes, I believe I mentioned something of the sort before. This is one of the tricks to the room many of our regulars know about. You remember him saying something about that now he mentions it. A secret passage is a handy thing to have when you're engaged in illegal goings-on. Oh god, I hate when people say that. Never know when you might need to duck away from the eyes of the law. So this same room has a secret passage. Where does it go? The other side connects to the restaurant above. The underworld bosses could get away from the cops and enjoy a cold bowl of borscht, no doubt. Just like our killer. You see where our line of simple deductive reasoning has led us, Apollo. I see it, but I don't believe it. This girl wasn't kidding when she said I needed this trump card for the last hand. The time of the murder, the window was blocked, and the victim's hat was only off his head for the few minutes between Mr. Smith's murder and Mr. Wright's return from calling the cops. In other words, the only place anyone could have seen the victim's bald head was from inside the hideout. Well, Mr. Gavin, come on, say something. Dare I ask what really happened that night? Actually, I think we can probably figure it out ourselves at this point. That night, for whatever reason, our killer had a date with Mr. Smith, a date with destiny. There he crouched, hidden in the secret passage behind the cupboard, holding his breath, waiting for just the right moment. Then the chance came, and he took it. Miss Olga O'Reilly was out cold, struck by Mr. Smith. But his time was soon to come. Mr. Wright went upstairs to call the cops, leaving Mr. Shady Smith alone in the hideout with the unconscious dealer. Then our killer stepped out from the secret passage and into the hideout. The victim must have heard the cupboard sliding aside. He wheeled his chair around to look and... Right after the deed was done, the criminal must have seen the blood on the card. He would have, of course, realized the need to destroy the evidence. That single splotch of blood told the whole story of the crime. Too bad for him, he didn't linger any longer in the hideout that night. If he had, he might have noticed the cards on the floor. And the fact that they were all red. Well, it seems this trial has taken yet another turn. I'm truly, truly sorry I had to see this day come, Mr. Gavin. Mr. Gavin? Mr. Payne.
Yes, Your Honor?
The prosecution will continue its investigation. As for Mr. Phoenix Wright, the defendant, he is hereby cleared of all suspicion. Believe me when I say that I don't believe this is happening, Mr. Gavin, but I'm afraid circumstances call for me to issue a warrant for your arrest immediately. Oh, no need to apologize. I rather enjoyed myself. It's not every day you get to witness a legendary attorney's dirty tactics firsthand. Your point, Mr. Gavin? Frankly, Your Honor, I'm shocked that a person of your caliber would be taken in by such a low-grade parlor trick. Excuse me? The defendant is clear of all suspicion. Is that hardly the time? This is hardly the time for jokes, Your Honor. Mr. Wright hasn't proven anyone's guilt or innocence here. What he has done is use illegal evidence to put the blame on someone else. And not just anyone else, but me, his own defense attorney. Illegal evidence? Let me ask you, Mr. Gavin, is there still any reason at present to suspect me of wrongdoing? Of course. This bottle, for instance. The bottle of grape juice Mr. Wright was drinking. How did you intend to explain away the fingerprints on the murder weapon? And not just any fingerprints. Am I right, Mr. Payne?
Actually, yes. The fingerprints on the bottle were upside down.
I seem to recall this being an issue earlier. The courts in this case demand an explanation. I can think of only one reason why one would hold the bottle upside down, and that is to hit someone with the bottom of the bottle. Well, Your Honor? See how the caught fish squirms to the last. Well, Apollo? Yes? Your boss seems awfully concerned about this bottle still. I'm sure you can come up with a suitable explanation, just like that. Yeah, just like what? Why would anyone grab a bottle upside down other than to... Ugh. Don't let him trick you into thinking his explanation is the only legitimate one. Is there really another? Take another look at the court record. I believe you'll find a simple answer there, in plain sight. How about you just say the answer in plain words?
It would be hasty to deliver a verdict with unanswered questions, indeed.
It wouldn't surprise me if this ends up being the best case of the entire game. Well, Mr. Justice, Mr. Gavin said that the court in this case demand an explanation. Don't worry, justice won't leave until justice is done. God. I should really hate that he says this to himself, but it's actually kind of hilarious. In like a charming sort of way. Perhaps the defense would care to enlighten the court. What evidence do you have to explain why the fingerprints on the bottle are upside down? I was thinking it might have been because of the way he slipped the card into the bottle, but I don't know how I would explain that. He could grab them from the crate like that. It's actually easier to show you than explain, Your Honor. Place that bottle on the floor next to your chair. Excuse me, on the floor? Yes, now reach down and pick it up, without getting out of your chair. See, you naturally go to pick up the bottle by its neck. With your fingers, upside down. I mean... I guess? I would probably pick it up like this. Look at this photograph taken on the night of the murder. The defendant, Mr. Wright, sat here, playing piano, bottles of grape juice on the floor to the side of his piano bench. He would have naturally picked up the bottles upside down several times. Well, I can't believe it was that simple. Recall our dinner that evening, Kristoff. I was drinking my usual juice then too. Basically, you used the bottle on the table to do the deed. But then you must have remembered, so you went and picked up one of the bottles from under the piano, and you switched the bottles. You took one of Mr. Wright's bottles and made it look like the murder weapon. Order, order, order! What do you have to say to these charges, Mr. Gavin? Fascinating. So this is the legendary attorney's famed tactic of misdirection. What? You claim that I switched the bottle. Where is your proof? Proof? What is this proof you're talking about? Well, that's As I thought, more baseless conjecture. I'm afraid your bottle of proof is quite empty. I wouldn't be so sure about that. Your Honor, when you initiated the investigation of the hideout earlier, do you recall I requested an additional investigation? Yes, I have your memo about that here. Retrieve the bottles from under the piano at the Borscht Bowl Club. And here's one of the bottles in question. What? Are you going to dust that for fingerprints too? I'm surprised if anywhere on that but his. Gavin probably would have made such a novice mistake. True, that bottle won't bear a trace of anything. Hey, Apollo. Yes? Why don't you go ahead and examine that bottle? But why? Just humor me. Mr. Wright, that bottle will solve this case once and for all. What? That's some bottle. There's something inside the bottle. What's this? That God, it can't be. For all that unpleasant woman's testimony for a moment. Recall the testimony of that unpleasant woman. I don't know why I find that to be such a hilarious insult. Maybe it's because it's just like it's such shade, but it's put in so casually that you might even miss it. Miss Olga, really? Yes, our little swindling devochka. I don't know what that word is, but it's cool. You're telling me that this is the planted card you disposed of? The one you mentioned in this piece of testimony? Five of hearts, this is the card. The bottles were swapped. The only one who could have done that was the fourth person in the club that night. You, Mr. Kristoff Gavin. Did he just make stuff float in the air like he was powering up in Dragon Ball? That is all. Is this your idea of revenge, Phoenix Wright? Revenge? Revenge for the events that took away your attorney's badge 7 years ago? My past is like my logic, straight and true. Nothing's changed. All I did was point the finger of justice in the proper direction. Fine. I'm glad we could have this little I don't know. Duel, right? This is insane. What about me? Do I get to prosecute anyone? Yeah, you've been irrelevant for like the last 2 hours. I believe this time we finally come to the end of our trial. Mr. Payne, do you have a report for us on Kristoff Gavin? He's admitted everything. We're processing his arrest now. I see. Still, one has to wonder why he would do such a thing. He didn't even have a connection to the victim, did he? None that we know of. Sucks to suck, I guess. Mr. Wright, have you anything to add? I'm afraid I can't shed any more light on the matter. About this victim, Mr. Shady Smith. His occupation was listed as traveler, an odd profession to be sure, and that's all we know about him. I'll read your follow-up investigation, Your Honor. Good. Mr. Wright? Yes? 7 years and you still haven't lost your touch. Kristoff Gavin was a man with much significance for me, both as a friend and a lawyer. He was extremely talented, to be sure. I needed two things before I could confront him. The first was a place where no injustice would be tolerated, this courtroom. The second was a man who would tolerate no injustice. In other words, a defense attorney. You, Apollo. Me? A dark time is coming for our legal system. A twisting of justice brought on by our very own court system. We have to set it right. The fuck is he talking about? Mr. Right! And our work lies ahead of us, and I, for one, am looking forward to it. Well, this seems like a good time to announce a verdict. This court finds the defendant, Mr. Phoenix Wright, for the third time in his life, not guilty of murder. Wait, no, second time. Court is adjourned. It was a third time. Okay, I thought I was... I was like, no, that's third time, right? He does look disheveled, and yet he's better at being himself than he ever has been before, despite looking like a bum. Thanks, Apollo. You came through just like I thought you would. I'm pretty sure I didn't do a thing in there. It was you who cornered the killer. I couldn't have done it by myself. You sensed it too today, didn't you? Your ability. Ability? Yes, a sensitivity I lack. You'll come to understand it soon enough. Wait, I wonder if he means... Oh, I'll rock that outfit. I will rock that outfit if I can get a hold of it. Although I don't know how the fuck I'm gonna get that pin. You have to find the answer to that question yourself. The answer, right. Today was full of questions without answers, most of them about Mr. Gavin. What possible reason could he have had to commit murder? Perhaps you'll learn that in the days to come. Why don't you just fucking tell him, dude? Huh? Wait, you don't know, do you? This locket is the key. Huh? Oh, that reminds me, I met the girl whose picture is in your locket. Your daughter, right? That's right, she's my daughter. You know, you're right about this locket. I took this off his neck the night he died. It looks like our dear Russian scam artist saw me. So the truth is, this locket really did belong to him. Wait, but that's perjury! You testified! You said that locket was yours! I said no such thing, actually. Huh? I merely said that it was a locket with my daughter's picture inside. A subtle distinction, but a distinction nonetheless. And it's the truth. Wait, but then why? Why was the victim wearing a locket with the picture of your daughter inside it? Sometimes the straightest path to the truth isn't the best one. Give it time. You're still just getting started with your career. Speaking of which, I may be out of a job. I work for Gavin Law Offices after all. I still can't believe I just saw Mr. Gavin get led away in handcuffs. Apollo? Yes? How about coming to work for me? You mean at the Wright & Co. Law Offices? I mean, there's not a single attorney in my generation that doesn't know it. I can't imagine that to be true, but... Wait, but you're not a... Oh, I turned in my badge, yes. I'm not an attorney anymore. That incident several years ago. 7 years ago, the legendary trial. And at the middle of it all was one man, Phoenix Wright. The case reached its sad conclusion and he left law for good. Have you ever thought about coming back to the courts? I'm not qualified to stand in a court of law, I'm afraid. Didn't you notice in today's trial, there was a single piece of forged evidence? Forged evidence? What are you talking about? I'm talking about evidence that shouldn't have existed. A naughty magician's trick. One piece of evidence that struck me as odd, it's true. It just seemed, well, too perfect. I'll bet this was the forged evidence. You mean this, don't you? I got this from your daughter, Mr. Wright. Yes, that card couldn't have been found at the crime scene. Why? Because the killer took it with him when he left. Leaving the wrong card in its place, luckily for us. Man, what, he backed him into it because he can't admit that he has it. He can't admit why he knows it's a fraud. My verdict was already handed down 7 years ago. Then you really... Yes, I forged this card. One look at the crime scene should have told you it wasn't real. But you can't do something like that and call yourself an attorney. Who's calling themselves an attorney, Apollo? So it's true. Rumor is true. 7 years ago. None of that matters much now, does it? Ugh! Ugh! The fuck's happening? I punched him. It's your story from here on out, Apollo. Perhaps I can help You turn the next page. My office's address. Drop in if you like. Mr. Wright. Oh, about your uppercut. Try yelling, "Take that!" next time. I find it packs a little more punch. God, this is so corny, but so awesome. And Apollo, thanks for today. I had a good time. Where's my tier list? Where's my tier list? Where is my tier list? I have to correct a grave injustice. Nothing else matters. It doesn't even matter. Rest of the tier list doesn't matter. Does not matter. Holy shit. Wow. And with that, Mr. Wright walked out the door. And that's how my first trial ended. A lot of mysteries went unsolved, and at the time, I had no idea how they were all related. Every mystery that day connected by a single thread of logic. I'd find that out soon enough. My name is Apollo Justice, attorney at law, and this is how my story begins. How do I feel about this first case? Well, I don't understand how this game can have mixed reviews if everything that follows is like this case, or even close to it. That was fantastic. Even the judge wasn't a complete idiot. Oh my God. How did we even manage that? He is, Phoenix is... How could dude walk without the wheelbarrow to carry his ginormous cojones? Yeah, right? Oh my God. I was just reading something about if the people seem to have mixed opinions on this game. I think it was a review. He said it seems like the fandom is very divided on this game. If there's only one case that has mixed reviews, even Trials and Tribulation had a case that wasn't the greatest, right? It wasn't bad, but it wasn't the greatest. Like if you get something that if you have one case that's like that, that means your game's still amazing. And I don't see how there's division. Yeah, she's definitely not 7. She's got to be older, which means he either had to have impregnated somebody when he was in college and just didn't find out until later, or he adopted somebody. It's got to be one of those two. We'll find out, obviously, because I'm assuming we're going to get more into her now in this case.